Chapter 178. At the departure port. Han Fei and the other four got on their fishing boats and waved goodbye to Xiao Zhan. After they flew away, Old Bai and Wenren Yu emerged from the crowd. Wenren Yu complained, "Why me?" Old Bai scoffed. "Who told you to lose the rock-paper-scissors game?" Wenren Yu sighed. "These people are not easy to settle down. They will definitely go to those places." Old Bai touched his beard. "Then let's go. Those places can't kill them." 5 fishing boats sailed in the air. Xia Shaochan pointed at Han Fei and said, "Why is your fishing boat so beautiful? Why is our fishing boat so ugly?" Han Fei said proudly, "Someone gave it to me." Xia Shaochan shouted, "That's too much. Han Fei, I want to exchange fishing boats with you." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Go away. Didn't you hear what the teacher said? We're going to the level 2 fishery, not together. We'll meet every 3 days to exchange experiences." Xia Shaochan grabbed the map with one hand. "But why are we going to the level 2 fishery? We can't fish normally and we have to experience the true meaning of fishing. When we get there, we'll study our spiritual beasts first. We really haven't studied them in depth." Lu Renquang looked at Han Fei with a wretched smile. "Han Fei, give me some of the barbecue in your sea-swallowing seashell." Han Fei said grumpily, "Eat, eat, eat." Lu Renquang responded with a smile, "Otherwise, how lonely it is to be alone on the sea." While everyone was chatting, only Zhang Xuanyu's breathing was unstable, and he seemed a little excited. Han Fei asked contemptuously, "Zhang Xuanyu, tell me honestly, where did you go last night?" Zhang Xuanyu said faintly, "I went to do what a man should do." Xia Shaochan wondered, what should a man do? Han Fei shrugged. "Forget it, Xia Shaochan, you have to study your giant arowana. That thing attacks indiscriminately. It's a bit troublesome." Xia Shaochan sighed. "I can't control it. It doesn't listen to me." Everyone, Luo Xiaobai frowned. "Why doesn't it listen to you?" The Blue Sea town was a bit far from the level 2 fishery, unlike the level 3 fishery, where there was a teleportation array. In the level 2 fishery, they could only fly. About 4 hours later, they arrived at the level 2 fishery. The level 2 fishery was much larger than the level 1 fishery. It was a ring that surrounded both the ordinary fishery and the level 1 fishery. Because it was too vast, no one could be seen on the surface of the sea. Perhaps in the Blue Sea arena, one could see great fishing masters every day. But walking on the streets of the Blue Sea town, great fishing masters were rare. Even though there were many great fishing masters, how vast was the level 2 fishery? The probability of them meeting each other was not high. As soon as the fishing boat landed on the water, Luo Xiaobai pointed at the map and said, "Everyone should know where we are now, right? 3 days later, we will gather here again. Be careful." Xia Shaochan said cheerfully, "I'm leaving." Lu Renquang muttered, "It's so troublesome to run around. Anyway, we're all studying spiritual beasts. I'll stay here and wait for you to return in 3 days. Han Fei, my barbecue." Han Fei helplessly took out a handful of barbecue and handed it over. "Eat, eat. Don't sleep on the sea for 3 days." Luo Xiaobai said, "I'm going north." "Zhang Xuanyu, why don't you go into the water? The ocean. Treasures. All the good things are down there." Han Fei suddenly looked at Zhang Xuanyu. This kid is good. What a high level of awareness. Han Fei said, "Ahem, Yu, we have to study at least for the first 3 days. You have to go to the sea. Otherwise, as soon as you come down, you'll be gone on a treasure hunt." Zhang Xuanyu nodded. "That seems to make sense. Then how many days later?" Han Fei said leisurely, "In a few days." Luo Xiaobai said with a black face, "Let's complete the task assigned by our teacher first. We'll exchange our experiences in 3 days." Han Fei shrugged. Okay. Then I'm going south. In the blink of an eye, everyone went their separate ways, except for Lu Renquang, who stayed where he was. After running for about 100 kilometers, Han Fei stopped the fishing boat. With a flash between his eyebrows, Little Black and Little White ran out around him. Ha! Level 17. When did you upgrade? Why didn't I know? While Han Fei was stunned, the two little fish plunged into the water. Come back. Han Fei's face was black. I haven't been in the water for 2 or 3 months. Do you have to be so excited? Little White obediently flew back to Han Fei's side. But Little Black was never obedient and didn't respond for a long time. Just when Han Fei was about to take them back, waves rose in the water and he saw Little Black holding a big fish nearly 2 meters long in his mouth. Name a stripfish. Introduction: a common fish in the level 2 fishery. Its dorsal fins are like swords. From head to tail, it has extremely fast speed and strong jumping ability. Level 24 quality regular contains spiritual energy greater than 187 points. Collectible ordinary fin sword. Han Fei looked at Little Black speechlessly. Did I ask you to catch fish? As soon as you entered the sea, you caught a fish. You're only level 17. Little Black held the strip fish in front of Han Fei as if asking for credit. Han Fei looked at the strip fish whose back was almost bitten through and casually kicked it to the deck. Han Fei didn't panic. Anyway, he had come down. Wasn't it just a matter of time before he went into the sea? Han Fei said, Little Black, show me your abilities. Except for invisibility and biting. Little Black circled around Han Fei, blinked his eyes, and suddenly opened his mouth. Han Fei was startled by her words. The little fish's mouth, which was originally the size of a cherry, was even bigger than a palm. Han Fei's eyes widened. What the fuck? The teacher was right. This little thing did have a lot of secrets. How the fuck did it open its mouth? Unfortunately, Wenren Yu hadn't seen this scene yet. Otherwise, she would have been scared to death. Although spiritual beasts could communicate with their masters. However, in many cases, spiritual beasts themselves didn't know what abilities they had. They were just using their abilities instinctively. It was for this reason that they needed to be explored. How could they be like Han Fei? How could his spiritual beast show him its new ability just by asking? Han Fei swallowed. What else? What other abilities do you have besides having a big mouth? Little Black circled twice in confusion and suddenly opened his mouth again. This time, it was even more exaggerated, directly opening his mouth to the size of a wash basin. Han Fei was startled again and immediately said angrily, do you have any other advantages besides having a big mouth? For example, can you dig for treasures, find treasures, catch exotic demonic fish, and so on? Little Black was even more confused. He felt that maybe his mouth was not big enough. The next moment, Little Black's body suddenly became at least 3 times bigger. When he opened his big mouth, he could swallow people. Fuck, Han Fei sat on the deck. Little Black? It should be called Big Black. But he was also surprised. Little Black could become bigger. Han Fei asked, Little Black, how big can you become? This time, Little Black seemed to move. His body became bigger and bigger, reaching about 5 times his original size. But even if it was 5 times bigger, it was still less than 2 meters long. After trying for a while, Han Fei found that this guy had no other abilities except for growing bigger and smaller and opening his mouth wide. However, this guy was very good at eating. The whole strip fish lying on the deck was swallowed by him. However, this guy's body size didn't change at all. Han Fei didn't know where he ate. Then Han Fei looked at Little White with a smile. Little White. What abilities do you have? Can you show me? Little White blinked its eyes and spat a mouthful of pure spiritual energy at Han Fei. Han Fei grabbed the spiritual energy, swallowed it into his mouth, and said, Little White, what else can you do? Little White thought Han Fei wanted to see him grow bigger. So it also grew bigger, almost the same size as Little Black, but Little White refused to open its mouth wide. Han Fei was speechless. Come back smaller, come back smaller. You look better when you are smaller. Han Fei took out a low-quality spiritual stone and said patiently, Little White. I mean, apart from growing bigger and smaller, what other abilities do you have? For example, looking for treasures, digging treasures, and so on. Little White stared at the spiritual stone for a while, but Little Black suddenly came up and swallowed the spiritual stone in one gulp. He even chewed it in the corner of his mouth, which had a crunchy feeling. Han Fei immediately said angrily, What are you doing? My low-quality spiritual stone. You foodie, you can eat even more than Lu Renquang. But just after Little Black ate the low-quality spiritual stone, Little White spat out a string of pure spiritual energy, which seemed to be purer than the spiritual stone. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. He had long noticed this. In the past, he thought that when Little Black was full, Little White wouldn't spit out spiritual energy. But now it could keep spitting out. But after a while, when Little White stopped spitting out spiritual energy, Han Fei found that a low-quality spiritual stone should have nearly 10,000 points of spiritual energy. But after Little White spat out, there were only 6,000 points left. The point was that Han Fei couldn't absorb these 6,000 points of spiritual energy. His upper limit of spiritual energy had reached 2,199 points, so his body could only bear this much. The rest would be used to store spiritual energy, which was equivalent to a loss for him. The only consolation was that the spiritual energy spat out by Little White nourished his body better than what he could get through cultivation. Han Fei asked, Anything else? Chapter 179. Han Fei knew that Little White had another ability, which was to find spiritual energy. He had seen this when he was in the undersea mine. It was Little White who led him to the spiritual stones. Little White jumped into the water. Seeing Little White jump, Little Black also jumped in. Then, Little White swam in one direction with Han Fei. Han Fei frowned. Are they looking for treasures or spiritual energy? After running with Little White for about half an hour, Little White stopped running and began to spin in place. Han Fei frowned and took out his fishing rod without saying a word. Although Old Bai didn't allow them to bring bait this time, after transmitting spiritual energy to the fishing rod, Han Fei could feel a small area underwater through the fishing rod. This was the exclusive ability of void fishing, which others didn't have. The fishing rod went deeper and deeper, sinking nearly 200 meters. Suddenly, Han Fei saw a golden squid fly out with a swish and disappear without a trace in the blink of an eye. Shit, Han Fei didn't know what squid it was, but judging from its speed of escape and its instantaneous reaction, it was definitely not an ordinary squid. Does Little White have the ability to find rare or even exotic creatures? Han Fei looked at Little White with a strange look. If it had this ability, wouldn't he be able to make countless of these creatures? Let them fuse with each other and turn them into mysterious creatures, legendary creatures, or even stronger creatures. Han Fei said hurriedly, Little White, can you still find it? Han Fei's eyes were shining and he felt that he was going to make a fortune. The image of himself controlling a large army of legendary creatures appeared in his mind. If that happened, wouldn't the ocean become his home field? If he met an enemy, he would release hundreds of legendary creatures to kill him. Would he be afraid? Little White hesitated for a long time and finally didn't move. Han Fei sensed that Little White couldn't find the other party. Han Fei regretted it. There was once an exotic creature in front of me, but I didn't cherish it. When I scared it away, I regretted it. Unable to find the squid, Han Fei just experimented with the water vein technique for a while and then put away the fishing pole. If the first and second levels of void fishing taught people how to fish, then the third level, water vein technique, taught people how to turn the hook and the fishing line into the pulse of water. In this case, the hook could approach the fish quietly and catch them with the help of the fishing method. However, after trying a few times, it didn't seem to work very well. It was probably because he hadn't grasped the essence. Out of 10 attempts, only one succeeded. Han Fei was not in the mood to practice. He asked Little White many times if he could find the squid. In the end, that damned squid seemed to have disappeared, and there was no way to find it. Han Fei lay down on the deck, face up. Don't you have any other abilities? How the hell was he supposed to dig? I can't turn into a fish, can I? Thinking about it, Han Fei was a little confused. If he had known this, he would have gone to the bottom of the sea to dig for treasures with Zhang Xuanyu. For some reason, a wave of drowsiness washed over him and he fell asleep on the deck. Suddenly, Han Fei shuddered and opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, he was startled. The world he saw was grotesque. He saw plankton of all shapes and sizes, and he saw huge fish swimming past his eyes. What's going on? Han Fei wanted to shout, but a string of bubbles came out of his mouth. Han Fei. Han Fei wanted to turn his head, but he couldn't feel his legs at all. Tail? I have a fucking tail. Damn, Little White. Han Fei saw Little White circling around him. However, Lil White's head had become extremely big, and it didn't look beautiful anymore. Wow! Did I become Little Black? Han Fei was stunned. This was a very wonderful experience. He became a fish, swimming with fins and tail, and the vision of his eyes changed, just like the vision of taking a picture from the bottom up or from the top down. It was similar. Where am I? Han Fei wagged his tail and swam, opening his mouth to drink a mouthful of seawater from time to time. Then, his cheeks began to open, and the scales on his body also slightly opened. After absorbing oxygen from the water, he continued to close his mouth. Han Fei was stunned and didn't know what to do for a while. I've become Little Black. What about me? For a moment, he wondered if he was dreaming. But how could a dream be like this? When a fish that looked about the same size as him swam past him, Han Fei was dumbfounded. Name: Bone Spur Fish, Primitive Spiritual Beast. Introduction: has bone spurs, extremely strong attack power, and attacks often catch people off guard. Level 13 Quality Regular contains soul energy greater than 152 points. Howl. Feeling that his body was out of control, he rushed up and bit it until the innocent bone spur fish was bitten into pieces. Then Han Fei regained control of his body. What the fuck? Who can explain to me why? What the hell is this place? What the hell is a primitive spiritual beast? Huh? Why do I feel a little stronger? Is it because I ate that fish? There seemed to be no concept of time here. Han Fei felt that he had swum for a long time and eaten several fish. There were some that he wanted to eat, but they also ran very fast. Han Fei saw many unknown fish, shrimps, and crabs, as well as familiar ones, such as spirit-chasing shrimp, cold flame turtles, and lightning crabs. These were all fucking primitive spiritual beasts. At this point, an extremely shocking idea emerged in Han Fei's mind. Isn't this the level 2 fishery? Is this the sea where Little Black and Little White came from? When he was awakened, Han Fei saw this sea. At that time, there was a film between him and this sea. Countless kinds of fish seemed to want to pass through the film, but in the end, only Little Black and Little White passed through. Yes, that's the sea. This should be Soul Ocean. After figuring this out, Han Fei was stunned. What's going on? How did I come here? And I've become Little Black? If this is the Soul Ocean, doesn't it mean that these things in front of me are all spiritual beasts? Han Fei swore that he had never seen so many spiritual beasts before. Han Fei was a little anxious. If he became Little Black, where was he? Or could it be that his soul was attached to Black's body? At this time, Han Fei saw a huge monster swimming past him. He took a closer look. What's that? A golden dragon? An arowana? Fuck, what the hell is this place? Han Fei trembled with fear. He saw a huge arowana swimming past him. Name: a golden arowana, primitive spiritual beast. Introduction: it has a trace of golden dragon bloodline. After awakening, its quality will mutate and its attack power will be extremely strong. Level 29. Quality: exotic, contains soul energy greater than 360 points. This time, Little Black didn't rush up to bite it, because he might not be able to bite it. Han Fei frowned. Little Black is so arrogant that it will bite whoever it catches. Will it be eaten by other spiritual beasts in this damn place? After observing for a while, Han Fei was relieved. It turned out that under normal circumstances, these spiritual beasts would not attack each other. But it was not absolute. Han Fei saw a mantis shrimp attacking other spiritual beasts and smashing them to death with a hammer. Then he dragged them back to his cave and began to eat. At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Han Fei's mind. If the spiritual beasts were in this kind of environment, wouldn't they be in danger of dying at any time? But in the real world, he had never heard of anyone's spiritual beast dying inexplicably. No, there must be something wrong. Trying it out, Han Fei picked a swordfish spiritual beast after a long time and took a few bites. The swordfish spiritual beast felt pain and then fled, not intending to fight with Little Black at all. After that, Han Fei ran to another spirit-swallowing fish of the same kind. He wandered in front of the spirit-swallowing fish, but the fish didn't seem to see him. Han Fei suddenly understood. Damn, I forgot about Little Black's invisibility. Can I enter Little White's body? As soon as he thought of this, Han Fei felt dizzy. His identity changed and he saw Little Black's whole body. I've become Little White? Ha, interesting. Can I switch between these two little guys? Han Fei was not as flustered as he was at first. Since he could come here, there must be a reason. After eating a few fishes, Han Fei felt very energetic. At this moment, he controlled Little White's body and swam to the spirit-swallowing fish. However, something unexpected happened. This spirit-swallowing fish still couldn't see him. He could understand that it couldn't see Little Black because Little Black was invisible. But it couldn't see Little White. Chapter 180. Suddenly, Han Fei's heart began to race. He had another bold idea. The spiritual beasts that had been awakened and summoned were invisible in the Soul Ocean. The primitive spiritual beasts in the Soul Ocean couldn't be seen at all. In order to confirm this idea, Han Fei ran to the swordfish and swam in front of it. It was okay. He plucked up his courage and swam in front of the crayfish. It was okay. In the end, he chased a golden arowana and swam in front of its eyeball for a long time, but it still didn't react. However, maybe Han Fei swam too fast, his tail slapped the golden arawana's eyeball and he was knocked away by the golden arowana. Ha ha ha. I'm rich, I'm rich. Since other primitive spiritual beasts can't see me, can't I eat them? Han Fei immediately thought of something and returned to Little Black. This time, all the fish that passed by Han Fei went up and gnawed on them. At first, the primitive spiritual beasts that were gnawed just fled in a hurry. In the end, the sudden death of many spiritual beasts finally attracted the attention of other primitive spiritual beasts in this water area. Immediately, the primitive spiritual beasts in this area began to panic. But Han Fei didn't feel anything. He felt as if his brain had been washed by cold water just now, and then he felt that his strength had increased greatly, mainly because of the increase in his bite force. Upgraded? Han Fei was so excited that he couldn't control himself. Originally, he had to feed Little Black every day and slowly let it evolve. As a result, although its advancement speed wasn't very slow, it only leveled up once in a few months. But when he came to this Soul Ocean and casually ate a few primitive spiritual beasts, he leveled up once. What if he continued to eat? When Han Fei ate nearly 30 primitive spiritual beasts again, he leveled up again. At this time, this area was in an uproar. All the primitive spiritual beasts were fleeing in panic. But Han Fei didn't care. Where can you run to? You're in the light, I'm in the dark. Do you think I'm afraid of you? This time, Han Fei's target changed. He began to choose those exotic and even rare spiritual beasts. Pearl fish, spirit-chasing shrimp, sapphire crab, lightning squid. Although it took him a long time to catch these rare spiritual beasts, he leveled up again after eating only 12 of them. Little Black and Little White directly broke through to level 20. After that, it was still the same. He didn't know how long it had been, but when Little Black and Little White reached level 22, there was not a single fish left. They had all run away. Han Fei was a bit puzzled. There were too few primitive spiritual beasts in his soul ocean. Why is it so weak? Should we move to another place? After swimming for a long time, Han Fei suddenly saw a flash in front of his eyes, and a squid full of tentacles appeared. Name Iron Hook Squid Sun Yang Spiritual Beast Introduction. The tentacles are like hooks, and the hooks are poisonous. Once you get close, it will be very difficult to escape. Level 27 Quality, Rare contains Soul Power 362 points. Someone else's spiritual beast? Han Fei was hesitating. Should I eat other people's spiritual beasts? Can other people's spiritual beasts be eaten? I can see it. Could it be that the summoned spiritual beasts could see each other in the Soul Sea? Han Fei thought for a while. Should I take a bite? The Iron Hook Squid also saw Whitey and suddenly hooked over with its hook. Han Fei was shocked. What? I'm still considering whether to eat you or not. How dare you take the initiative to attack me? Whitey's speed was extremely fast, and it quickly dodged. But Han Fei was angry. I didn't intend to eat you, but you attacked me first. But you were the one who attacked first, so you can't blame me. Immediately, Han Fei rushed up and bit off a squid's tentacle. Just when he was about to continue, the spiritual beast swooshed away at an extremely fast speed. Han Fei chased it all the way, but unfortunately, because it could see Whitey, it ran extremely fast. After chasing for a while, Han Fei gave up. This kind of spiritual beast seemed to have some intelligence. Otherwise, it wouldn't have started to escape as soon as it suffered a loss. After swimming for a while, when a large number of primitive spiritual beasts appeared around Han Fei, he began to devour them crazily again. Just when Han Fei felt that he might upgrade at any time. Suddenly, Han Fei felt dizzy. When he woke up again, he found that he was sleeping on the deck. Huh? Out of the Soul Sea. Why? At this moment, Han Fei suddenly thought of something. He jumped up from the deck and the two knives in his hands instantly shot out. Someone's here. As soon as Han Fei dodged, an arrow was nailed to the place where he had just slept. Who? Which bastard dares to ruin my plan? Dozens of meters away, a fishing boat was approaching. On the bow of the boat, a man held a longbow and shot 3 arrows again, trying to kill Han Fei. Clang, 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 the 3 arrows were easily blocked by Han Fei. Han Fei twisted his wrist slightly. An advanced great fishing master. The man's face seemed to be full of surprise. He failed to kill him in the state of sneak attack. Run, needless to say, those who could come to the level 2 fishery were all at least great fishing masters. This man's sneak attack failed, so the first thing he thought of was to run. Want to run now? Do you think I don't exist? Han Fei walked on the wind, waved the fishing rod in his hand, and entangled the man in the blink of an eye. Immediately, the 2 knives in his hands broke through the air and drew a strange arc in the air. Clang, the man raised his bow to block, but the next moment, the longbow that had accompanied him for many years was directly cut off. Magic weapon! The man exclaimed, pulled out a dagger, and hurriedly cut the fishing line that entangled him. However, the fishing line quickly loosened and was taken back by Han Fei. The 2 knives fell back into his hands and Han Fei had already stepped onto the man's boat. Little brother, let's talk. Spare my life, and I will repay you. Han Fei grinned. How? Just at the moment when Han Fei smiled, the man attacked again, and Han Fei saw a squid instantly fuse. Han Fei was surprised. Iron hook squid. Han Fei was sure that this was definitely an iron hook squid, which he had just seen. Smack, in the air, a big seal phantom slapped down, and the water-stirring seal appeared extremely fast, catching people off guard. At this moment, it smashed the cabin and directly smashed the man into the water. Han Fei put away the water-stirring seal. It seemed that he had used too much force. He hadn't seen what it looked like underwater in the level 2 fishery. Was this man smashed to death? Han Fei stood on the boat and watched for a while. After a few minutes, a head suddenly popped out of the sea, his face covered with blood. Help me, Han Fei didn't move. Standing on the bow, he asked thoughtfully, is your name Sun Yang? Yes, help. The next moment, Sun Yang seemed to be dragged into the sea by something and could never come up again. I hate untrustworthy people like you the most. Han Fei was not surprised. Back then, after Su Yabai was hit by the water-stirring seal, he passed out. It was not easy for Sun Yang to persist underwater for so long. However, his name was Sun Yang. That was amazing. It was no coincidence that he saw his iron hook squid in the Seoul Ocean, and then met its owner as soon as he woke up. Han Fei felt that he had discovered a big secret, an extremely terrifying secret. When a person was close to him, then the distance between their spiritual beasts in the Seoul Ocean was also very close. The key of the secret was not this, but why could he enter the world where his spiritual beasts were? Since he could enter, could others enter as well? If everyone could enter, then wouldn't the Seoul Ocean also have no guarantee of safety? Regarding this question, he decided to test it when the 5 of them reunited 3 days later. Then, when Han Fei tried to enter the Seoul Ocean again, unfortunately, he couldn't. No matter if he was lying, sleeping, or in a daze, he couldn't enter. Little Black and Little White, like two fools, didn't understand what Han Fei meant at all. They might not even know that they had just been possessed. But Han Fei found that Little Black and Little White had now reached level 22. How long had it been? Looking at the sky, it was probably less than half an hour. And a few months ago, they had just leveled up by 1 level. Han Fei was shocked. In half an hour, they suddenly went from level 17 to level 22. Just how shocking was this leveling speed? Chapter 181. After Han Fei struggled for a long time, the day had turned into night. Today the sea was stormy and the wind was howling. The 3 big moons were half obscured by clouds, and Han Fei's fishing boat was still drifting on the sea. During the day, he didn't feel much difference between the level 1 fishery and the level 2 fishery. Although occasionally some stupid big fish would break out of the water and attack Han Fei for no reason, they were no match for him at all. However, they were no match for him at all, and there were no big shrimps like the tentacle lobster climbing onto the fishing boat. But at night, everything was different. The wind and waves were beating, and from time to time, some squid and cuttlefish would stick to the fishing boat. Unlike the squid and cuttlefish in the ordinary fishery, these squids were very fierce. Smack, a few tentacles several meters long slapped on the deck, and Han Fei's double knives didn't stop. Since nightfall, he had been slashing, and there were hundreds of tentacles in Forge the Universe at this moment. Meow, are you done yet? Can't I have a peaceful night? Little Black, bite them, bite these dogs to death. While cursing, Han Fei chopped the annoying tentacles. He raised his knife and the tentacles fell off. In fact, each tentacle was actually extremely powerful, and each claw had the force of 1,000 kilograms. If Han Fei didn't have the double knives in his hands, although he could still fight, it would definitely not be as easy as it was now. About 2 hours later, Han Fei was speechless. The entire boat was almost covered with squids. The only thing that Han Fei was glad about was that squids were not octopuses, otherwise they would be more terrifying than squids. When there were so many squid tentacles that Han Fei didn't want to stuff into Forge the Universe, the whole boat was full of them. Little Black couldn't even eat all of them, so Han Fei could only kick them all into the sea. Suddenly, Han Fei saw Little White anxiously circling around him. His expression changed slightly. Something's here. The next moment, a pale golden phantom swept over in the blink of an eye, and a tentacle swept over. With a sweep, countless tentacles on the hull were gone. Even a squid that had almost climbed onto the boat in front of Han Fei was pulled away. The huge force pulled the fishing boat forward quickly. Han Fei's face changed slightly. Is it the golden squid? Han Fei was shocked. I've been looking for you for a long time, but I couldn't find you. Now you've come to me. Swish, ignoring the tentacles, while the golden squid was hunting, Han Fei plunged his fishing hook into the water and used the 1,000 twining technique to tie up the squid that was dragged into the water. The moment the fish hook entered the water, the golden cuttlefish did not notice it at first because of the wind and waves and the water vane technique. As soon as the 1,000 coiling silk was activated, it immediately let go of the cuttlefish and tried to escape. Hey! Do you think I'll let you escape? The 1,000 twining threads instantly tightened, directly binding the golden squid's 3 tentacles in one go. Yeah, there seemed to be a strange sound underwater. Han Fei was surprised. Could squids make sounds? What kind of squid are you? Buzz, in the blink of an eye, Han Fei was pulled forward and the fishing rod almost fell out of his hand. When Han Fei realized what had happened, he found that the fishing line had been pulled 100 meters away. Damn, so fast. It seemed that his feet were too weak and there were too many tentacles around him. Han Fei gritted his teeth and the fishing boat disappeared instantly. And his whole body was directly thrown dozens of meters away. Plop, Han Fei fell into the sea. Just at the moment when he entered the sea, countless claws stretched out around him. Kill. Little Black, a cold light flashed, and 5 or 6 tentacles were cut off. Immediately, a water wall appeared in the water, and the water control technique directly blocked dozens of tentacles. Then Han Fei was dragged into the deep sea. Along the way, Han Fei used the wandering dragon art. He grabbed the fishing rod with one hand and made all kinds of strange movements with his body to block various tentacles. Striped fish, bony spur fish, big-headed prawns, and schools of fish. There were countless marine creatures here, much more than in ordinary fisheries. Although there were many marine creatures in ordinary fisheries, they were definitely not so dense. However, in this damn place, the wind and waves were roaring, but the underwater scene was so chaotic. However, Han Fei was certainly not afraid. He couldn't let go of what he had already caught. He used the hook kiss technique to make the hook deeply sink into the body of the golden squid. Han Fei reeled in the line abruptly, only to be pulled towards the golden squid. Swish, Han Fei gritted his teeth. It's too fast, this thing is running too fast. The nearby schools of fish can't catch up with it. Some squid have just stretched out their tentacles and Han Fei has already appeared 20 meters away. What the hell is this squid? How can it run so fast? After a while, Han Fei didn't know where he was. He only saw a large group of corals under the sea, and the squid was dragging him against the corals. Bam, 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 the sand on the seabed flew and the corals shattered. Han Fei didn't know how many corals he had smashed. At this moment, full of anger, he pulled the fishing rod even harder. After a while, he already saw the golden squid more than 10 meters away. It was nearly 3 meters long, and because it ran so fast, the water marks it left along the way were like knives. But a series of data appeared in front of Han Fei's eyes. Name a golden squid. Introduction. A product of the evolution and mutation of the lightning squid. It is as timid as a mouse and extremely fast. There is a bone in its body that can be used to refine spiritual weapons. Level 23 Quality Exotic. It contains spiritual energy greater than 468 points. Edible effect. You can learn the speed talent after eating it. Collectible squid bone. Han Fei smiled. Exotic creature, no wonder it's so awesome. If it hadn't come to him, he wouldn't have been able to catch it. Puff. Just as Han Fei was smiling, he heard a noise in front of him, and then a large mass of black ink appeared. Shit, squid, also known as cuttlefish, had ink sacs in its body. Usually, when it encountered danger, it would spit out the ink sacs and start to escape. At this moment, Han Fei plunged into the mass of black ink. At that moment, Han Fei felt like throwing up. His head was a bit dizzy and the world was spinning. Poisonous. Paralyzing effect. Han Fei felt that his head was twice as big as his head. Although he had taken the exotic poisonous fruit, this damn thing was not poisonous, or it could only be said to be half poisonous, so he couldn't completely resist it. Fortunately, the paralyzing effect of his body was being relieved, but the feeling of vomiting lingered for a long time. Squeak. The golden squid in front was anxious and seemed to be thinking, why can't I get rid of this thing? Swish, in the water, a cold knife light rushed out and penetrated the golden squid's body in an instant. Bam, the golden squid directly crashed into a coral pile. Han Fei put away the knife and quickly came to its side. At this time, this guy finally remembered to use its tentacles. Puff! When a tentacle was cut off by Han Fei, the golden squid squeaked in pain and continued to run with strength that came from nowhere. But now it was not so easy to run. After 100 minutes, the golden squid's 10 tentacles were cut off by Han Fei, leaving only the 3 entangled by the fishing hook. Han Fei stood in front of this big squid. Run, keep running. If you have the guts, keep running. I can't catch you. Collect the demon. The golden squid, which had already had 7 tentacles cut off, was cut off again by Han Fei. At this moment, it was extremely weak, so the demon purification pot had no problem collecting the demon. Han Fei swam to the sea surface contentedly. He didn't have time to think too much. There were many seabed creatures in the level 2 fishery. At this moment, he saw a dragon-headed fish with a hideous head, rushing at him. Bam! Han Fei held the water-stirring seal in his hand and smashed the dragon-headed fish to death with one blow, continuing to swim upward. Along the way, Han Fei encountered dragon-headed fish, human-faced crabs, but to his surprise, he was almost killed by the human-faced crab. Because at that moment, he saw an illusion. There were countless tentacles around him, so dense that he couldn't count them at all. If Little Black hadn't attacked the human-faced crab, Han Fei would have been entangled in the water for a while. Puff! The white fishing boat appeared on the sea. Han Fei lay on the boat and gasped for breath. It was really not easy to catch exotic creatures, far more difficult than rare creatures. Chapter 182. After lying on the fishing boat for less than 5 minutes, Han Fei felt movement under the boat. Needless to say, it was definitely those damn squids. Little Black, bite me, hey, no, I seem to have forgotten about 9 tails. A shadow flashed on Han Fei's arm, and the 9-tailed mantis shrimp appeared. It froze for a moment and then saw a tentacle stretch over from the side of the boat. Without hesitation, 9 tails hooked the tentacle with its 2 claws and began its squid tentacle movement. Guard the boat. If you dare to be naughty again, I'll stew you and eat shrimp meat. Han Fei finally knew why he selectively forgot this thing. If he let it possess him to fight, he would be a first-class fighter. If he let it out, it would definitely not be a good thing. But when it didn't come out, it began to attack the squid tentacles. Under the water, the squid was probably also stunned at this moment. What on earth did my tentacles go through? 5 or 6 angry tentacles emerged at once. 9 tails froze for a moment. It seemed to have roared too much. With a flick of its tail, 4 or 5 tentacles broke off and fell on the deck. Han Fei leaned against the cabin and shouted to 9 tails, "Stop fighting. Here, the tentacles are coming again. After a long time, Han Fei occasionally waved his knife. Nine Tails, who hadn't come out for a long time, was so excited that he ran all over the boat. Although those tentacles were not weak, Nine Tails was also a legendary creature. Although it hadn't fully evolved, ordinary squids couldn't deal with it. At this moment, Han Fei's Forge the Universe had been stuffed with tentacles. He decided to take these tentacles back to the barbecue stall of the fish dragons. With so many tentacles, he could sell them for a lot of money. About in the early morning, for hours before dawn, Han Fei saw a big fish on the sea, which jumped out of the sea with a plop and was dozens of meters long. Han Fei was stunned. What the hell is that? How could there be such a big whale in the level 2 fishery? Are you kidding me? The big fish swam straight to Han Fei's fishing boat. Han Fei was dumbfounded and hurriedly tried to control the fishing boat to escape. Roar, a sound similar to a dragon's roar sounded. Han Fei turned around and roared. Giant arowana. The only big fish he had seen so far that could make such a sound was Xia Xiaochan's giant arowana. A moment later, Han Fei saw Xia Xiaochan sitting diagonally on the back of the big fish, kicking the water with her two little feet. As for the squids, they all avoided the giant arowana's legs, making Xia Xiaochan look like a whale girl kicking the water uncomfortably. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan was waving at him. After Xia Xiaochan jumped on the fishing boat, she saw the nine-tailed mantis shrimp running around, wagging its tail wildly. Han Fei didn't even have time to pick up the tentacles all over the boat. Xia Xiaochan immediately sat on the ground. Fortunately, your boat is strong. Why are you here? Where's your ship? Xia Xiaochan looked at the tentacles on the side. They're sinking. The level 2 fishery won't always be like this, right? I heard that others stay in the level 2 fishery for days at a time. Why did so many cuttlefish appear as soon as we arrived? Xia Xiaochan asked, who knows? He was just unlucky. Anything could happen in the fishery. If we have time to take off, it doesn't matter. We can avoid them by driving the fishing boat to the mixed area. Then why don't you go with them? Only with challenges can there be growth. Oh. Forget it. Is there any barbecue? I'm hungry. Han Fei took out a few skewers of barbecue from his sea-swallowing seashell and handed them to Xia Xiaochan. Han Fei chuckled in his heart. You almost destroyed your boat, but this giant arowana is really amazing. It's a bit too strong. Xia Xiaochan took a bite of garlic prawns. Delicious. By the way, why are you here? I remember you seem to be going south or west. Not in the same direction as me, right? Han Fei snorted. I'm floating on the sea. How do I know where I'm floating to? It wasn't that Han Fei felt he needed to hide the fact that he had caught an exotic creature. The point was that the golden squid was lying in the demon purification pot and he couldn't take it out now. Xia Xiaochan looked at the nine-tailed mantis shrimp and commented, your mantis shrimp is not bad. With it guarding the boat, you don't need to do anything. Han Fei asked with a smile, have you ever considered catching a contractual spiritual fish? Xia Xiaochan shook her head indifferently. I don't like any. The rare ones are useless and I can't catch any exotic ones. I thought I would catch one in the level 2 fishery. Han Fei nodded. This was true. Among the 5 of them, only he had a contractual spiritual beast. But Han Fei knew that the nine-tailed mantis shrimp and he were not in a contractual relationship, but others didn't know. Xia Xiaochan and the others didn't. They should all be waiting to catch a powerful contractual spiritual beast. Xia Xiaochan suddenly asked, let's go find Kuang Kuang. Han Fei asked, what about Xiao Bai and Zhang Xuanyu? Xia Xiaochan asked, Xiao Bai is a manipulator. It was impossible for these squids to hurt her. Zhang Xuanyu has a bloodthirsty shark. Even if his fishing boat sinks, he can ride a big shark and wander on the sea like me. Kuang Kuang is different. His spiritual clam can't swim. Han Fei nodded. Since he had met Xia Shaochan, he didn't need to practice the water vein technique. Han Fei felt that he had almost finished studying his spiritual beast. As for the true meaning of fishing that old Bai mentioned, he really didn't find it. He couldn't just throw the hook into the sea and catch it blindly, could he? Lu Renkuang was helpless. What did he do to deserve this? Were these squids sick? They didn't want to stay in such a large sea but climbed onto the boat. In the dark, there was a magical scene. The fishing boat under Lu Renkuang's feet was full of weapons floating in all directions. In terms of group battles, armorists even had an advantage over soul warriors. All kinds of swords and knives were dancing and tentacles were flying in the sky. When Han Fei arrived, the fishing boat under Lu Renkuang's feet was riddled with holes, not torn by the squids, but by his own weapons. Seeing Han Fei's fishing boat, Lu Renkuang immediately greeted him, "Oh, Han Fei, I miss you so much. Come and help me." A few minutes later, the three of them were sitting on Han Fei's fishing boat and eating barbecue. Lu Renkuang's fishing boat gradually began to seep and had sunk halfway. Lu Renkuang muttered, "Why is our fishing boat so broken? No, I have to find a way to dig some wood from the bottom of the sea and build my own fishing boat." The night passed. Of the 5 people's fishing boats, 3 had sunk. Soon after dawn, Zhang Xuanyu came back riding a shark. Then, less than half an hour later, Luo Xiaobai came back. Luo Xiaobai's fishing boat was also almost broken. She got on Han Fei's fishing boat and saw the 4 of them were all there. She couldn't help asking, "When did you come back?" Zhang Xuanyu replied, "I came back when the fishing boat was broken. That fishing boat is too weak. I was almost dragged down by those damn squids." Luo Xiaobai added, "Last night was a special situation, but now there is only one fishing boat left. Why don't we act together?" Han Fei suggested, "Let's not run around and discuss how our research on spiritual beasts is going." Lu Renkuang muttered, "What can I do? My spiritual vitality clam can absorb spiritual chi very quickly. Its defense is extremely strong. Well, but yesterday I found that it can change color, it can become the same color as the squids." Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. There are so many creatures that can change color. There are at least 8,000 kinds of creatures in the sea that can change color. What kind of ability is this? Luo Xiaobai replied, "No. This is also an ability. At least it proves that the spiritual clam has a camouflage ability. My blue cannibal flower can release a wide range of paralyzing venom. It was because of this venom that I was safe last night." Xia Shaochan added, "It seems that everyone has a new understanding of spiritual beasts." With that, Xia Shaochan's figure disappeared and appeared directly on the bow of the boat. "Shit, what the hell is this ability?" Everyone was stunned, including Han Fei. "This speed is too fast. Is it a shadow? This speed is too fast." In the blink of an eye, she disappeared. Xia Shaochan explained, "This is the special ability of shadow shrimp. It can move to any place within 100 meters in an instant." Everyone, Zhang Xuanyu suddenly pointed to the big shark in the water and said angrily, "Look at it, and then look at yourself. I don't even want to talk about you. You're so big, but you're useless." After cursing for a long time, Zhang Xuanyu shrugged and said, "I can control some low-level creatures. I can attach a trace of spiritual energy to these creatures. But the rare ones are more difficult to control and have a high probability of failure." Everyone, Han Fei was taken aback. "So, you can become a fish?" Zhang Xuanyu explained, "No, I'm still me, but I can control a fish. Then I'll have 2 visions at the same time." Everyone was surprised. What would it be like to have the vision of a fish? Only Han Fei was thinking. "I've already become a fish and the vision of a fish is so ugly." Of course, Han Fei was even more uncertain whether these guys had really revealed all the information. For example, it had only been one night and they could even teleport. Were they serious? Luo Xiaobai asked, Han Fei, what about you? Chapter 183. Everyone was staring at Han Fei. Han Fei thought for a moment. He couldn't say that he could enter the soul ocean, could he? This ability seemed a little overboard. So Han Fei said, my little white can look for creatures other than rare creatures in the sea, such as exotic creatures. Last night, I was chasing an exotic creature and somehow ran into Xia Shaochan. Exotic creatures? Everyone said in unison and looked at Han Fei with glowing eyes. Han Fei smiled bitterly. Don't be too excited. If we are discovered by exotic creatures, they will hide and it will be difficult to find us again. Moreover, these creatures have extremely fast reflexes and escape abilities, making them very difficult to catch. Zhang Xuanyu said excitedly, what's so difficult about it? There are 5 of us. As long as we can locate it, we won't have to worry about not being able to catch it. Xia Shaochan was eager to try. I can teleport. As long as I can get within 100 meters of it, I can catch it. Han Fei was taken aback. That seemed to be the case. Wasn't Xia Shaochan's ability too terrifying? Teleportation, this was simply a godly skill. Luo Xiaobai said, I can release paralysis toxins around. Lu Renquang raised his hand. I can, Zhang Xuanyu said disdainfully, no, you can't. Your spiritual essence clam can change color. What's the use of that? I still have to do it. I can control the weakest fish in the level 2 fishery and help with observation. Lu Renquang. Everyone chimed in. Immediately, everyone looked at Han Fei again. Xia Shaochan's eyes were fiery. Yes, big brother, our contractual spiritual beasts depend on you. Han Fei shivered. Be normal. Humph. Han Fei forced a smile. Shall we go to the level 3 fishery? Don't you feel that it's a bit of a loss for you to contract a contractual spiritual beast from the level 2 fishery? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. Exotic contractual spiritual beasts can grow with their masters and may not be weaker than the exotic creatures in the level 3 fishery. Xia Shaochan echoed, this kind of creature is not restricted to fisheries. Exotic species were on the same level. They might be an accident in the level 2 fishery, or they were not strong enough to go to the level 3 fishery, or there were other reasons. But they are definitely not common creatures in the level 2 fishery. Soon, everyone reached an agreement and looked at Han Fei expectantly. Okay. I wasn't sure if Xiao Bai could find it. Let me try. Luo Xiaobai hesitated and said, can you change its name? Han Fei ignored Luo Xiaobai and touched Little White's head. Little White, can you find another creature like the golden snitch yesterday? Let's look for it. Little White dived into the water and spun around in confusion. In the end, he seemed a little uncertain as he chose a direction. The others did not know if Little White was really reliable. They only knew that Little White had started to lead the way and was very happy. They were all chatting about what kind of exotic creatures they could get their hands on. Lu Renquang shouted, I want a turtle, I want an exotic turtle. In this way, my defense power will definitely catch up with Han Fei. Zhang Xuanyu revealed a yearning look. I want a fast one, the faster the better. Who cares what it is? Luo Xiaobai said, I need someone who can attack and defend, so that I can make up for my shortcomings as a manipulator. Xia Shaochan said, I want a very strong attack power, very strong. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. You aren't weak now, right? Few great fishing masters can block your dagger. Xia Shaochan looked at Han Fei. No, he can block it. I want to stab him. Han Fei was speechless. No, it seems that exotic creatures are already in your bag. And you, Xia Shaochan, can you stop thinking about stabbing me every day? Did I provoke you? Xia Shaochan replied, yes, I did. Han Fei. Suddenly, Luo Xiaobai said, well, let's learn the voice transmission technique. Everyone. Luo Xiaobai explained, before we came, my teacher guessed that we would go into the water, so he prepared a small technique for me that can allow us to transmit voice in the water. Han Fei was surprised. Is there such a thing? Han Fei was speechless. Before, when he went into the sea, he was either alone or gesticulated with others. But now it was so advanced. You can transmit voice. How? The others were also dumbfounded. It seemed that they had heard this thing for the first time. Luo Xiaobai continued, I thought we wouldn't go into the sea so soon, but I didn't expect that only one day. With that said, Luo Xiaobai took out a jade slip. Transmitting voice is actually very simple. You just need to practice it a little. Everyone took the jade slip suspiciously. When they saw the so-called voice transmission technique, they all looked strange. When Han Fei took the jade slip, he also looked strange. The so-called voice transmission technique was actually a kind of energy fluctuation produced by the combination of spiritual power and spiritual energy. Amazingly, it was simple to operate but very demanding. Spiritual power was something that no one could predict. However, it was basically impossible for a fisher or fishing master to transmit voice, mainly because their spiritual power was not up to the standard. But a great fishing master was different. By combining spiritual power and spiritual energy, he could easily form a vibration in the other party's mind. Although Han Fei didn't find out the principle, he tried it and called Xia Shaochan a few times, hey, hey, hey. Xia Shaochan slapped Han Fei. Do you want to die? What do you mean, hey? Han Fei was helpless. Didn't I do an experiment? Xia Shaochan asked, why do you all want me to do experiments? There are 3 voices in my head. Everyone, then, 2 voices appeared in Han Fei's head. Le Renquang said, I want to eat barbecue. Zhang Xuanyu asked, are you two in love? Han Fei said with a black face, okay, no need to try. It's very simple and consumes very little energy. The 5 of them all looked weird. No one knew what they were talking about. Anyway, the scene was very embarrassing. Han Fei thought that maybe he was the only one who called them, hey, hey, hey. The others were just as Zhang Xuanyu had asked. They didn't know what they were talking about. Han Fei suddenly looked at Zhang Xuanyu. What did you do to Hu Karen from the First Academy? I heard that you abducted the little girl for a night. Zhang Xuanyu replied, same here. I heard that you abducted He Xiaoyu. What did you do? Han Fei replied, I just said a few words to He Xiaoyu. You didn't come back at all. Zhang Xuanyu said, let me tell you, don't cheat on me. Otherwise, we can't be brothers. Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu looked at each other, as if they were flirting. Xia Shaochan asked, are you two secretly chatting? What are you talking about? Han Fei snorted. No. What do I have to talk about with him? If I want to talk, I'll talk to you. Zhang Xuanyu scoffed. I can't. I was just in a trance. Little White swam for more than an hour and traveled nearly 1,000 kilometers. During this period, Han Fei received voice transmissions from the 4 people from time to time, asking all kinds of strange questions. Looking at the reactions of the others, they seemed to be chatting with great interest. It was even more convenient than making a phone call. Suddenly, Little White stopped. Han Fei shouted, stop chatting. I found it. Everyone was shocked and all stuck their heads out of the boat. Han Fei said, you can't just cast the fishing rod. That's how I scared away a golden snitch yesterday. Zhang Xuanyu said, don't worry. Let me do it. Cast the rod 3 meters and catch a small fish. Luo Xiaobai immediately waved the fishing rod, and after 10 minutes, a yellow-bone fish was caught. Yellow-bone fish, like striped fish, was a common fish in the level 2 fishery. It got its name because its bones were extremely hard and could be made into weapons. Zhang Xuanyu's face changed slightly, and his eyes became dull. The next moment, the yellow bone fish jumped and stared at Han Fei and the others. Zhang Xuanyu took a breath and said, "It's so ugly." "Okay, throw it down." "Everyone." Han Fei chuckled. After a while, when everyone was nervous and excited, Zhang Xuanyu suddenly said, "It's a turtle, silver." "Oh, no, it's stabbed with many knives, too many to count." Lu Renkuang immediately patted his thigh. "Mine, mine. Ha ha ha, the first one is mine." Everyone was not disappointed because the first exotic creature was Lu Renkuang's, but even more delighted. Since Little White could really find it, it was only a matter of time before they continued to find others. Chapter 184. Now that he knew it was a tortoise, he had achieved his goal. Han Fei hurriedly said, "Don't let your yellow croaker bones get too close." "Stay away." Luo Xiaobai asked, "How deep is it?" Zhang Xuanyu said, "About 200 meters underwater, lying on a stone platform in the middle of a coral bush." Luo Xiaobai said, "I'll enter the water first and spread paralysis toxins within 100 meters. Expand it a little bit." "We don't understand this turtle. What if it's a godly speed tortoise and runs away in a flash? What should we do?" Everyone was speechless. How could there be so many creatures with such strange speed? Zhang Xuanyu said, "Wait, that turtle found me. Holy shit, he can still discover me from dozens of meters away. I'll swim away now." Luo Xiaobai paused. "Then should I go or not? This turtle seems to be very smart. Can you spread poison on the water?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "No, maybe Zhang Xuanyu will go down with me. My vines will go from the bottom of the sea." "No, as soon as your vines come out, the other creatures nearby will be alarmed." "There's no reason this big turtle wouldn't be alarmed." Lu Renkuang was anxious. "Why don't we go up and fight them?" Zhang Xuanyu suggested, "It seems to work. At most, we can surround them from 5 directions." Han Fei thought for a while. He didn't have any experience, so he nodded and said, "To be on the safe side, let's approach from 500 meters away. Zhang Xuanyu, keep an eye on him from a distance. We have to be fast. Otherwise, just the fishes and prawns in the sea will be very troublesome." Xia Shaochan said, "I can approach you in stealth mode and wait for you 100 meters away. If it wants to escape, I can teleport over." "Is there no limit to your teleportation?" Xia Shaochan muttered, "I need to pause for a breath." Everyone was speechless. Teleportation was already very freakish, but you managed to do it in a single breath? Without hesitation, everyone used their own methods to run 500 meters away. Luo Xiaobai used vines, Zhang Xuanyu used waves, Xia Shaochan turned invisible, Han Fei could step on air, and Lu Renkuang stood on the saber. As soon as Han Fei entered the water, a string fish entangled him. Han Fei asked Little Black to bite it to death, and he dodged the attacking fish with various postures. Han Fei sent a voice transmission to Lu Renkuang. Fortunately, the distance was not too far. Although it was a bit intermittent, it could still be transmitted. "Have we reached the bottom of the sea?" Lu Renkuang said, "Yes, but a large group of demonic fish are attacking me. Kill them quickly." On the other side, Xia Shaochan sent a voice transmission, "Ready." Luo Xiaobai said, "Sprint in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Buzz. Han Fei immediately activated the Wandering Dragon art. As soon as Lu Renkuang launched torrents of knives and swords, the surrounding demonic fish were shattered. Zhang Xuanyu summoned the bloodthirsty shark and began to sprint. Luo Xiaobai was like a witch in the sea, supported by thousands of vines, moving forward quickly. Han Fei had just swum nearly 200 meters, and the others were only about 300 meters. Suddenly, Xia Shaochan said to him via voice transmission, "Little White, in your direction." It found out and wanted to run. At this moment, everyone was extremely anxious and used their fastest speed. Battle techniques and whatnot, he used all of them. Any demonic fish that stood in his way were all killed. Luo Xiaobai said in surprise, "He's as fast as me. I can block him." Han Fei and the others only felt violent spiritual energy fluctuations erupting hundreds of meters away. Then, the water was filled with broken vines. Roar, dragon roar. Han Fei was shocked. Xia Shaochan even used the giant arowana against a turtle. In just a dozen seconds, a big battle seemed to have broken out over there. Han Fei saw not only vines in the water, but also countless blades. These blades seemed to be spiritual and were stirring in the water. Luo Xiaobai said anxiously, "Come on, I can't block it anymore." Han Fei burst out with all his strength and looked closer, only to see thousands of blades revolving around this big turtle. Luo Xiaobai's vines were almost swept away. At this moment, blood was flowing from the corner of her mouth and she was constantly producing vines to block. "Little Black, bite it." Clank, 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 Han Fei rushed over and dozens of blades flew at him, making clanking sounds. Torrents of swords and knives. Lu Renkuang was anxious and used torrents of swords and knives from a distance of 200 meters. When Han Fei was within 100 meters of the big turtle, he found that Xia Shaochan was surrounded by countless blades. It was a big turtle nearly 5 meters long. A string of data flashed in Han Fei's eyes. Name 1000-blade turtle. Introduction: carries 1000 blades and evolves with the growth of the turtle body. Currently, each blade is an ultra-quality mortal weapon. Level 28 Equality Exotic contains spiritual energy greater than 662 points. Edible effect: your vitality will soar after eating it. Collectible: turtle blades, turtle shells, and turtle cores. Xiaobai, back off. Let me do it. The 1000-blade turtle had obviously discovered Han Fei and seemed to feel Han Fei's threat. At this moment, hundreds of blades rushed at Han Fei crazily. Clank, 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 water-stirring seal. A big seal slapped down in the water and blades flew everywhere. Seeing that Han Fei was close, the 1000-blade turtle seemed to find that Han Fei was difficult to deal with and immediately chose to escape. But in that direction, Zhang Xuanyu had already rushed over. Soul Strike. 7-layered waves in furious sea. On the other side, Lu Renkuang's torrents of swords and knives also rushed over crazily. In the sea, blades and swords clashed. Bam! Han Fei quickly smashed the turtle shell with a seal. Clang! The violent metal knocking sound almost exploded the heads of the people in the water. The 1000-blade turtle was smashed away and smashed a coral bush. The various fish, crabs, and other creatures inside didn't even have time to escape and were instantly minced by the thousands of blades. What shocked Han Fei was that the 1000-blade turtle could still run away after being hit by him. However, at this time, Zhang Xuanyu's 7-layered sticks in furious sea arrived. The 7 sticks smashed quickly. After the 7th blow, Zhang Xuanyu himself was bounced back. Taking this opportunity, Han Fei smashed the turtle again. Clang! Finally, the thousands of blades seemed to have lost control. Some returned to the turtle shell, and some scattered everywhere. Luo Xiaobai's vines flew over and tied the 1000-blade turtle up. After a moment, on the fishing boat, a group of people sat on the deck. Zhang Xuanyu gasped. This turtle is too powerful. My 7-layered waves in furious sea bounced back at me. It was so powerful that I almost couldn't control it. Han Fei, heal me. Not only Xia Shaochan, but Luo Xiaobai was also the most seriously injured, with at least dozens of wounds on her body. 2 rays of light shone. Lu Renkuang looked at the 1000-blade turtle as if seeing his little lover. At this moment, a weird laughter came from his mouth. Ha ha ha, baby, here I come. The 1000-blade turtle was stunned by the water-stirring seal. Lu Renkuang cut his flesh and muttered. After a while, when the 1000-blade turtle woke up, it struggled and roared, but then found that something was wrong and an invisible force controlled it. Lu Renkuang laughed. Ha ha ha. The 1000-blade turtle. Too strong, too strong. Lu Renkuang was overjoyed, and the others all looked envious. This turtle was really strong. The 5 of them almost couldn't catch it. Its strength could be imagined. After a while, when the 1,000-blade turtle accepted this fact, Luo Xiaobai loosened the vines. Lu Renkuang put it into the water and muttered, "Go pick up your knives. Don't lose any of them, understand?" Xia Shaochan jumped up and down. "Let's go find the next one." Han Fei looked at Little White. However, Little White wandered in the water for a long time, ran to Han Fei, and gave him a mouthful of spiritual energy. Xia Shaochan asked, "What does Little White mean?" Han Fei said helplessly, "I haven't found it yet. Or let's change places first. There shouldn't be 2 exotic creatures in this small area." Luo Xiaobai agreed. "Yes, we ran thousands of miles away just for this 1,000-blade turtle. Maybe exotic creatures are territorial." Zhang Xuanyu suggested, "I'll control the fishing boat. Who will point in a direction?" Xia Shaochan suggested, "South." Chapter 185. They floated on the sea for a full 6 days. On the 4th day, Zhang Xuanyu got his speed-type exotic contractual spiritual beast, the golden water silkworm, as he wished. Its characteristic was its speed. It was not just any kind of speed. It was a bug that was even faster than the golden flying bandit. Of course, it might be because its speed was so strong that it had no other advantages except for its speed. Of course, not everyone got the exotic contractual spiritual beasts that they wanted. Luo Xiaobai got an invisible jellyfish. She wanted to give it to Xia Shaochan. However, Xia Shaochan said that she could be invisible and didn't need it. So Luo Xiaobai took it herself. A manipulator who knew how to turn invisible was an extremely frightening thing. In battle, you could only see her controlling, but you couldn't find her. Wasn't it terrifying? Xia Shaochan was not so lucky. She hadn't met a suitable exotic creature yet. Xia Shaochan held Little White and said, Little White, find me one too." "You found them. Don't leave me behind." "Pop." Little White kissed Xia Shaochan. Xia Shaochan giggled. "Oh, good girl. When you find my exotic contractual spiritual beast, I'll kiss you." Han Fei was speechless. "Oh, Little White is female." Xia Shaochan glared at Han Fei. "None of your business." Luo Xiaobai suggested again, "Han Fei, you really should give it a new name. Shall we call it Little White?" Luo Xiaobai, just when they were joking, Little White suddenly jumped into the water and swam to the north. Xia Shaochan immediately shouted at Zhang Xuanyu, "Hurry up. Little White, I found it. I found it." They had cooperated well these days. As long as they found it, they could take it. Seeing this, a smile appeared on everyone's faces. No one in the entire Blue Sea town was as lucky as they were. All of them had exotic, contractual spiritual beasts. How many people would envy them? More than an hour later, they came to a barren sea. Xia Shaochan was still excited. Luo Xiaobai frowned. "No, wait a minute. We seem to be out of the level 2 fishery." Hearing this, everyone quickly gathered around. Luo Xiaobai pointed at the map and said, "According to the map, we were at the edge of the level 2 fishery just now. But according to the speed of the fishing boat, I'm afraid we've gone another 1,500 kilometers. There's no record of this place." Lu Renkuang was eating barbecue and said casually, "Even if it happens, it doesn't matter. In any case, they weren't too far away. Wasn't the level 2 fishery a mixed area? You have to go to the level 3 fishery via the teleportation array." Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "No, it's true that the area outside the level 2 fishery is a mixed area. However, outside the level 2 fishery was a mixed area that had hardly been explored. In the past few days, we've gone out too far. For 6 whole days, although we took a few detours, the overall direction was always south. Han Fei wondered, why didn't I notice it before? Luo Xiaobai said, I thought we were going east, just a little south. However, when I looked at the map just now, I suddenly realized that the position of the sun is not right. We are indeed heading south. Han Fei smiled. Can you estimate how far we have run? Luo Xiaobai frowned. I'm afraid it's more than 20,000 kilometers. Pfft, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. 20,000 miles. They didn't feel it at all. In the past few days, everyone had been playing with their contractual spiritual beasts. Who cared about the direction? Xia Shaochan said indifferently, forget it. Little Xiaobai has found it. Why don't we go down? It's impossible not to go down. Zhang Xuanyu nodded. It's just a mixed area. What are you afraid of? Han Fei didn't care. Let's go down. Even if we reach the level 3 fishery, the 5 of us can explore it together. Not to mention the mixed area next to the level 2 fishery. Luo Xiaobai nodded slightly. Okay, let's catch this one, go back the way we came and study the fishing method that the president mentioned. After a while, Zhang Xuanyu saw through his second vision. It's a shrimp, red, half a meter long. Huh, this shrimp has wings on its back. I guess it will be very fast. Xia Shaochan nodded. Shrimp? Well, shadow shrimp is also a shrimp. This red shrimp may not be bad. Underwater, they were still surrounded in a circle. However, now they had more helpers. 5 people, 6 spiritual beasts, and 4 contractual spiritual beasts. After several rounds of encirclement, everyone found that exotic creatures were extremely vigilant. Once they started fighting underwater, they would alarm the other party. Anyway, they might as well show all their strength and openly encircle the other party. After a moment, Zhang Xuanyu said, Kuang Kuang, it's going towards you. Be careful, this shrimp is very fast and has a strong dodging ability. On Lu Renkuang's side, thousands of knife shadows were flying. He shouted, no matter how strong its dodging ability is, it can't even dodge the torrents of knives and swords launched by me and the 1,000-blade tortoise. Xia Shaochan said nervously, Kuang Kuang, what if you kill my contractual spiritual beast? Everyone was not far away. Suddenly, they saw the shrimp draw a strange arc in the water. Wherever the red prawn passed, it would leave a red mark. When they got closer, they found that it was simply a red flame that could still burn in the water. Not far from Lu Renkuang, the shrimp flickered like a dancing elf. No matter how dense the knife blades were, it shuttled back and forth, leaving a strange route in the dark sea. Lu Renkuang shouted, no, I can't stop it. This little thing is too good at running. Xia Shaochan was speechless. Why are you so fat? Chase, the 5 of them chased it frantically. Fortunately, this little thing was not as fast as they thought. It was more powerful in dodging. They surrounded it, but it ran away. Fortunately, wherever this little thing passed, it would leave a red flame, so they didn't lose it. Han Fei ran in the front and attacked it several times to no avail. Suddenly, he saw a huge trench in front of him, like a cliff in the sea. It was a bit like the shipwreck pit in the ordinary fishery. It was also narrow and seemed to have been cut out by a knife, but this trench was a bit long. Han Fei said, attention, it's going down. Below is a very deep trench, but I don't know how deep it is. In addition, there are fewer fish nearby. There are almost no group fish. Be careful. After a while, they all rushed into the trench and chased it all the way to a depth of a kilometer. There were almost no fish around. Luo Xiaobai came back to her senses. Something is wrong. This place is weird. Zhang Xuanyu said, I can probably hold on for about a quarter of an hour. I need to breathe. Luo Xiaobai threw a vine over. Bite it open. There is air in it. Everyone looked at Luo Xiaobai in surprise. Not bad. There were quite a lot of flashy little tricks. Lu Renkuang said, there is a hole below. It ran into the hole. Should we chase it? Xia Shaochan said, yes, be careful. Everyone rushed into the hole. Suddenly, Han Fei frowned slightly, feeling that something was wrong. Han Fei frowned. Don't you feel that the temperature in this cave is a bit high? Luo Xiaobai said, it is indeed a bit high. Maybe this is the reason why the flame shrimp evolved. Then, after only a few minutes, everyone stopped. They were stunned by the scene in front of them. All kinds of colorful creatures were entangled in this cave. In the second half of the cave, there were no less than 1,000 kinds of creatures. But they were all low-level creatures. Even the sea anemones here were just ordinary sea anemones. And the red shrimp had nowhere to go at this moment and was scurrying around in the innermost part of the cave. Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up. Finally, I've caught you, my contractual spiritual beast. Luo Xiaobai said, I'll block the way out. The others attack. Xiaochan teleports to catch it. Something is wrong here. Let's finish it quickly and then leave. Chapter 186. Everyone attacked together. With a flash of Xia Shaochan, the red lobster was hit against the rock wall. Xia Shaochan said, it's very hot. Let's beat it first and then sign the contract. Half an hour later. The red fire lobster finally compromised. The contract process was very fast. Xia Shaochan said, red fire tricky lobster, what a strange name. Xia Shaochan wanted to try the ability of the red fire tricky lobster, but Han Fei ran to the innermost part of the cave, picked up a knife, and slashed crazily. Luo Xiaobai asked, Han Fei, what's wrong? Xia Shaochan was surprised. What's wrong with you? Han Fei pointed at the rock wall and said, this place is strange. According to my experience in the sea, there's something here. Everyone rolled their eyes. You've been in the sea for so many years. You're just bragging. However, then they couldn't laugh anymore, because they saw the rock wall was breaking. Gradually, a green jade door carved with patterns of aquatic plants was revealed. When this stone door appeared, everyone felt that the surrounding temperature seemed to be rising again. Zhang Xuanyu said excitedly, treasures, there must be treasures here. We found a treasure cave. Han Fei was also very excited. He didn't expect that he would dig out a treasure when he captured a contractual spiritual beast. The sea was indeed the most mysterious place in the world, and there were treasures everywhere. Han Fei said, help me knock open the rock wall next to it and see if there's anything else on the door. Luo Xiaobai said, be careful. There may be something hot behind the door. After a while, a complete door appeared, with the words, Fire Cloud Cave, written on it. Lu Renkuang looked at the words for a long time. Is this an ancient relic? It looks like it's very powerful. Han Fei dragged him away. Step back. I'll try to open the door. Everyone stepped back dozens of steps. Luo Xiaobai said, Lu Renkuang, prepare the shield. Under everyone's nervous gaze, Han Fei stomped and tried to push the door open with all his strength. But the door didn't budge at all. Lu Renkuang quickly stepped forward. Let me help you. So the two fatties tried their best, but the result was the same. The door still didn't budge. Zhang Xuanyu said, me too. The result was still the same. Suddenly, Xia Shaochan said, try to pull it up. Pull up. The three of them stared at each other and tentatively pulled it. As a result, the three of them pulled the door open. What followed was a wave of heat, and at the same time, a huge suction force came from the door. Everyone felt their bodies tilt and their vision blur. The next moment, they were standing in the cave. Xia Shaochan muttered, 3 idiots. The three of them, at this moment, no one retorted, because the scene in front of them had truly stunned them. Behind the door was a stove that was extremely hot. The surging waves of heat were emitted from the furnace. It was a circular space of less than 500 square meters. Apart from a large furnace placed at the entrance, there were only gray rock walls on both sides. In the middle, there was an irregular rock that was narrow at the top and wide at the bottom, connecting the top and the bottom of this space. My sea god! Did we really find the treasure? Zhang Xuanyu was so excited that he wanted to get closer to the stove. However, when he was 2 meters away from the stove, he was sent flying by a strange scorching force. Fortunately, Luo Xiaobai reacted quickly and pulled him with a vine. Luo Xiaobai frowned slightly and said, "Be careful, this place is hidden very deep. It doesn't look like an ordinary treasure place. Don't be careless." Clang, everyone looked in the direction of the sound. They saw that Lu Renkuang was holding a knife and knocking on a stone on the rock wall. It was a kind of blue jade, which seemed to contain some spiritual energy. Han Fei was speechless. "Kuang Kuang, you are really short-sighted. Why didn't you look at such a big furnace?" Lu Renkuang said contemptuously, "There's nothing in that furnace. You'll know if you look up and see inside." Han Fei didn't believe it, so he deliberately stepped on the air, only to see that there was magma in the furnace. Luo Xiaobai said, "It's earth fire. This space is connected to earth fire. Come and see." Xia Shaochan stood in front of a rock wall and seemed to have found something. When everyone gathered around, they found some murals on this rock wall. On the murals, a man with wings on his back, holding a spear and confronting a dragon. Looking at the murals, everyone roughly understood the cause and effect. It was said that an unknown dragon came to this level 2 fishery and caused a large number of fishing boats here to go missing. Later, a strong master came from high in the clouds with a group of people. This strong master bravely slayed the dragon with his men and went through several battles. Although they slayed the dragon in the end, most of his men were killed and the strong master was seriously injured. Later, this strong master found that this place was connected to earth fire and tried to recuperate here. Xia Shaochan shook her head. "This is not a dragon. If it were a legendary dragon, these people would have been killed as soon as they met. Take my great Xia Arowana for example. In the same realm, there aren't many people who can block its throat." Han Fei nodded in agreement. "Although I don't think it's a dragon, this thing can kill so many winged creatures. It should be very strong." "What do you mean by so many winged creatures?" "They were all hidden fishers, but they were all killed. They were all gone. I'm afraid it's not easy to get the treasure." Zhang Xuanyu smacked his lips and guessed, as if he knew very well. Rumble, Han Fei and the others quickly looked back, only to find that Lu Renkuang and Xia Shaochan had run to the rock wall dozens of meters away. There was no telling who pressed the switch, but at this moment, a stone door was rumbling open. Lu Renkuang looked at everyone apologetically. Sorry, Xia Shaochan was about to stick her head into the hole when she was caught by vines. Luo Xiaobai looked at the two of them with a headache and said, "Calm down. This place is weird. Don't run around." Xia Shaochan giggled. "If we can't get out, we have to go in. Even if there is danger, it's behind us." Han Fei found that he was not the only one who liked treasure hunting. It turned out that everyone liked it. "Look at her, she's even more active than me." Zhang Xuanyu licked his lips. "Let's go in. There seems to be no danger here." Han Fei leaned over and saw not only the big dark hole, but also the lights on both sides that had long been extinguished. He immediately narrowed his eyes. "Wait a minute. Xia Shaochan, try to light this light for me." Xia Shaochan pointed her finger, and a string of flames emerged, which made Han Fei's imagination run wild. There were really all kinds of strange creatures in the sea. More importantly, when you obtained some special contractual spiritual beasts, you could have special abilities. Isn't it too cool? Her finger is even more useful than a lighter. In the next moment, a string of lights was ignited and extended all the way down. Han Fei was slightly stunned. "Huh? An everlasting lamp? Why do I feel that this is a tomb, and this is a pathway? A tomb? Han Fei nodded. Yes, according to the information on the mural, this expert healed his wounds here with the help of the earth fire. But if that's the case, why did he deliberately build these light slots on the walls on both sides? Luo Xiaobai thought for a moment. Don't move. Let me try. Luo Xiaobai stretched out her hand, and the vines extended along the ground and the wall. After a few minutes, all the vines suddenly broke. Luo Xiaobai shivered and her face was a little pale. Xia Shaochan quickly supported her and asked, Xiaobai, what did you see? Luo Xiaobai looked awful. Human face crabs. A lot. They're clinging to the holes around the wall. I just disturbed them. Hiss, everybody gasped. The human face crabs could create illusions. How could they deal with a lot of human face crabs? Xia Shaochan, Luo Xiaobai, and Zhang Xuanyu all stepped back. Lu Renkuang was dumbfounded. Why are you looking at us? Han Fei rolled his eyes and wanted to step back too. But Xia Shaochan poked him with a knife. Why are you stepping back? The human face crabs can only create illusions, but they're not strong enough to break your defense. Han Fei said innocently, what if I'm hallucinating and attack you? Isn't it easy to let Lu Renkuang sweep them with torrents of knives and swords? Zhang Xuanyu patted Han Fei's shoulder and said solemnly, Fei, with your reminder, you can attract them to attack you if you stand inside. In this way, those human face crabs won't care about us. Han Fei's face darkened. You're such a bad friend. Luo Xiaobai said, if Lu Renkuang is bewildered, only you can completely block his torrents of knives and swords. Lu Renkuang. Han Fei. Chapter 187. Han Fei and Lu Renkuang were ruthlessly betrayed just like that. The two of them walked into the cave with their arms around each other's shoulders. Lu Renkuang asked, I'm afraid of the dark. Why don't you walk in front? Han Fei was speechless. Why weren't you afraid of the dark when you went into the sea to catch turtles? Lu Renkuang shrugged. I'm intermittent. Han Fei walked forward and even enjoyed it a little bit. In this state of adventure, when people knew nothing about the road ahead, they would generally have two emotions, one was fear, and the other was excitement. Obviously, Han Fei was more excited. Human-faced crabs are just human-faced crabs. Can they chop me like vegetables? After walking for less than 50 meters, Han Fei suddenly stopped. Lu Renkuang stuck out his head. Why did you stop? Han Fei turned his head stiffly, with a creepy smile on his face and creepy sounds coming from his mouth. Damn it! Ha ha ha! Han Fei suddenly returned to normal, pointing at the dumbfounded Lu Renkuang and laughing. Surprised? Surprised? Han Fei, I'm going to kill you, outside the passage. Luo Xiaobai's face changed slightly. Lu Renkuang has been bewitched? Zhang Xuanyu looked around. No, didn't you hear Han Fei laughing? He was so wretched. Xia Shaochan nodded, determined not to go in. Han Fei's bad taste was satisfied. The two of them played for a while in the passage, and then Lu Renkuang suddenly stopped and took out the box with a swish. Han Fei blinked and couldn't laugh anymore. He heard a rustling sound behind him. Han Fei didn't look back but looked at Lu Renkuang. Seriously? Are you going to use torrents of knives and swords? Lu Renkuang shivered. Take it. How about you use them with me? I remember your blade storm is not bad either. Han Fei felt that the fishing rod behind him was hooked. Thus, he immediately lashed out with his twin sabers, slicing one of the human-faced crabs in half. But then his blood froze. He finally knew why Luo Xiaobai said there were a lot of human-faced crabs. How was this a lot? They were so densely packed that they looked like a swarm of locusts. Torrents of knives and swords. Blade storm. Almost instantaneously, both of them reacted. In the first few seconds, Han Fei felt like he was mincing meat, and a lot of broken shells hit his face. Then, he felt that something was wrong. His position had changed. The tunnel was still the tunnel, the human-faced crabs were still human-faced crabs, and Lu Renkuang was gone. Illusion, this is all an illusion. As soon as Han Fei finished the illusion, the position changed again. He found himself in a circular space full of steel thorns, and countless marching sea leeches crawled out from the steel thorns. The steel thorns would also stab him in large quantities, causing his entire body to emit clanking sounds. You want to charm me? Pretending to be marching sea leeches? Am I not giving you face? Explode! As Han Fei blasted out a spiritual energy explosion, the steel spike ball disappeared. But Han Fei found that this was not a tunnel at all, and he didn't feel any pain anymore. Instead, he saw more than 10 washbasin-sized eyes that emitted a faint green light. Hiss! Damn it, what a big crab! Han Fei swallowed. He saw a crab tens of meters long with a gloomy face. More importantly, this thing was smiling and staring at Han Fei with its mouth open and closed. He would be lying if he said he was not nervous. Strength and fear of the unknown didn't conflict at all. Han Fei took a few steps back. Brother Crab, how are you? A crab leg flashed by in an instant, and Han Fei's body made a weird posture and he rolled back on his back. The crab leg was less than a centimeter away from his nose, which made his scalp go numb. Rumble, Han Fei looked back, only to see that this small hole had been smashed by the crab leg, and gravel was rolling. Shoot! Brother Crab, I was just passing by. You don't have to be so cruel, do you? Thinking of the knife just now, it was too fast. If it weren't for his tense body, his head might have been cut off at this moment. Huh? Wait. Suddenly, Han Fei froze. I should be able to see the data. Even if you are a question mark, I should be able to see the question mark. But you don't even have a question mark. Are you fake? When the crab leg slashed at him again, Han Fei raised the two knives and slashed. Crack, the huge crab leg was easily cut off by Han Fei. Who? That scared the hell out of me. Han Fei cursed aloud, don't pretend to be cool if you're not strong enough. You scared me. I thought you were really that big. Han Fei took the initiative to attack. At this moment, the big crab suddenly turned into many small crabs and began to besiege him. Explode. Explode is healthier. I'll absorb. Han Fei could clearly sense that spiritual energy was flowing in. It meant that the human-faced crabs must have been slaughtered by him. It did make sense. There were so many crabs, and they couldn't be gone so easily. The silence was a bit weird. Unfortunately, the crabs were gone after the explosion of spiritual energy. But Han Fei didn't return to reality. Instead, he found himself on a fishing boat at sea. Captain, we're here. Shall we go into the water to explore? Hiss. Han Fei really gasped and pinched himself, only to find that it hurt. How could the illusion be so realistic? Captain. Poochie, Han Fei slashed at the guy behind him without any hesitation. Han Fei scoffed. Lousy. You think you can mesmerize me with such an illusion? Attach. As soon as the nine-tailed mantis shrimp attached to him, the 7 chains began to sweep. Immediately, Han Fei was brought back to reality. The broken shells of the human-faced crabs were all over the ground. Many human-faced crabs were even fleeing. The scene was very real. But he didn't see Lu Renkuang. This was very abnormal. Could it be that he was still in an illusion? No, if Lu Renkuang were here, his torrents of knives and swords would have hit me. But I don't feel anything at all. Han Fei felt that he was lost. He turned around and shouted, Quang. Nobody responded. He called Xia Shaochan and the others, but they still didn't respond. Ha! I'll just keep walking. Do you think I'm afraid? Han Fei walked on. There was no telling whether the human-faced crabs were scared or not, but fewer human-faced crabs tried to attack him. Han Fei was no longer as casual as he was at the beginning. He found that the further he went, the colder it was. Although he wasn't scared of the cold, he could feel it. Isn't there an earth fire? But the temperature is already below zero. What fire are you talking about? After Han Fei walked through the cold and gloomy passage, he saw a green dragon coiled up in a big hole. At this moment, the dragon was holding its head high and roaring at him. The roar was as loud as that of a giant arowana. Fuck, ha. No data. Is it fake? Han Fei thought to himself. He had learned his lesson and knew that the illusions of the human-faced crabs were impossible to guard against. The dragon before him was fake, but he saw data appearing on a protruding stone at the dragon's tail. Human-faced ghost crab. This is a mutation of the human-faced crab that swallowed the decayed body of the blue sea wandering dragon. It has a strong hallucinogenic ability. Level 31 exotic, mutation, 982 points. Possible mental abnormalities after eating illusion bead. Han Fei sneered. So, it was you who was playing tricks. I knew it. How could an ordinary human-faced crab create such an absurd illusion? It turned out to be an exotic mutant human-faced crab. The dragon roared again and spurted a cold pillar of water at Han Fei. Han Fei didn't block it. Although he felt that his body was covered in ice, the ice was broken by his spiritual energy. Han Fei roared, "Crab, die!" Chapter 188. Han Fei charged forward as if he didn't care about his life. The human-faced ghost crab didn't expect him to be so reckless either. He wasn't afraid of a dragon at all and even wanted to kill it. The moment Han Fei approached, he suddenly changed his direction and darted out 7 chains, tying up the rock that the human-faced ghost crab disguised as. Critical blow. The knife in his hand turned into a white light and stabbed at the human-faced ghost crab. In the next moment, the illusion was gone, and Han Fei saw a super big crab 7 meters long suddenly stand up. The rock he saw just now turned out to be one of the crab's pincers. Fuck! Han Fei saw that his knife pierced through the crab's pincers and infuriated it. When the crab stood up, Han Fei realized why it was called the human-faced ghost crab. On its abdomen, there was a weird face, hideous, creepy, and terrifying. Although the 7 chains locked the human-faced ghost crab, the crab was already above level 30. It meant that the crab was as strong as a dangling fisher. Also, the crab's defense and strength were strong in the first place. He was thrown away and hit the rock wall. Hee hee. Little Black, get in. Han Fei wasn't panicked at all. Human-faced crabs weren't good at fighting. The only thing they were good at was creating illusions. Since the illusion had been broken by him, Han Fei wasn't scared even if the human-faced ghost crab was level 31. Little Black took the opportunity to sneak into the hole that Han Fei had just made. In the next moment, the human-faced crab began to wail, and all kinds of illusions changed in front of Han Fei. In the illusions, he saw the so-called dragon and a bunch of hidden fishers fighting. Dozens of hidden fishers attacked with all kinds of weapons. Manipulators, soul warriors, spirit gatherers, and so on. However, they were frozen by a blue gas that the green dragon spewed out. Apart from the battle, Han Fei also saw that the strongest expert drew the power of many people and pointed a finger at the dragon's head. The green light that the fingertip spurted out seemed to contain immense energy. Han Fei found it horrifying even though it was just an illusion. In an instant, dozens of scenes were switching. The human-faced ghost crab seemed to have lost its mind after being bitten by Little Black, and all the scenes of its life were replayed. This feeling was like a 5D movie, and Han Fei was in it. Han Fei saw that after slaying the dragon, the strong master's body cracked and almost collapsed. He dug up the dragon's corpse, ate the dragon's meat and liver, and barely managed to stabilize his injuries. However, his injuries were too severe. Extending his lifespan temporarily was completely useless. Thus, he used his remaining strength to open up this fire cloud cave. In order to prevent the dragon from reviving, he separated the dragon bones and scattered them in the cave. When he was opening up his immortal's cave, he accidentally discovered the earth fire, so he used the earth fire and the dragon corpse to refine pills. Unfortunately, because of the great drop in strength, the pill concoction failed. In the end, he couldn't hold on and died. And all of this was seen by a little crab. At first, this human-faced ghost crab was just an ordinary human-faced crab. It didn't dare to approach the pill cauldron or the dragon corpse for decades. It wasn't until it was nourished by the dragon chi that it dared to bite the bullet and eat some rotten dragon meat. Over time, the human-faced crab mutated and became the human-faced ghost crab that it was today. Suddenly, Han Fei stopped them. "Little Black, stop eating." Little Black emerged from the shell of the human-faced ghost crab, one of its pincers drooping. Obviously, it had finished eating. Han Fei ordered, "Collect the demon." Perhaps the human-faced ghost crab was too frightened, or perhaps it was timid, or perhaps it felt that death was coming, but the demon purification pot didn't encounter any resistance when it collected the demon. This human-faced ghost crab was immediately collected into the calabash and went to accompany the golden snitch. After the human-faced ghost crab was collected, the ordinary human-faced crabs immediately ran back to their nests to hide. And in the place where the human-faced ghost crab used to be, a crystal bone more than 3 meters long was exposed. Han Fei had seen the human-faced ghost crab's small bone. Dian Han Fei immediately recognized that it was a dragon bone. Excited, he immediately ran up to pick up the bone. As soon as he picked it up, Han Fei almost threw it away. His heart chilled, his heart soared, his bones were terrifyingly cold. Blue Sea Wandering Dragon Bone, the bone of the descendant of a dragon. It contains cold air. After a long time, its spiritual energy has been greatly reduced. It's an excellent material for forging spiritual weapons. Han Fei was shocked. Can it forge spiritual weapons? Is there really a dragon bone in this cave? Although there is only one here, it's so big that dozens of knives must have been cast. Putting away the Blue Sea Wandering Dragon Bone, Han Fei's heart was pounding. This is just a dragon bone. Logically speaking, there should be an entire set of dragon bones here. How could there be just one? If all the dragon bones were collected, then wouldn't the set of Million Knife School spiritual weapons be ready for completion? When Han Fei was about to continue exploring, he hesitated. Lu Renkuang was gone. Should I look for him? But the moment he turned around, he saw that the one hole he had come from had turned into 3. Damn! Which hole did I come from? Han Fei looked back at the hole behind the human-faced ghost crab. There was only one hole here. Was the purpose to make people more selective? Han Fei thought for a moment. Lu Renkuang was not simple, or rather, everyone was not simple. They all had trump cards. Even Xia Xiaochan had a giant arowana with her. If it was just a creature at the level of the human-faced ghost crab, it shouldn't be a big problem. With this in mind, Han Fei strode to the hole ahead. Unfortunately, Han Fei didn't know how to play with fire and couldn't light the lamp slot, so he could only grope in the dark. Fortunately, a cultivator's vision was very strong, and this pitch-black cave didn't scare him. The tunnel was very long. Halfway through, Han Fei stopped. He found a fiery crystal on the wall. He couldn't tell its quality, and the demon purification pot didn't react. However, this thing gave him a scorching feeling and seemed to be able to resist the cold air in the cave. Immediately, Han Fei took out a knife and began to pick it up. 1, 2, Han Fei picked up nearly 100 fiery crystals in total and found that the road ahead was clear. It was also a big hole, even larger than the cave of the human-faced ghost crab. The cave was tens of meters high and inlaid with fiery crystals. However, this place was connected to the sea. Except for a circular passage for walking, it was a round swimming pool, and the water was extremely clear. Han Fei saw a super large skull more than 10 meters long lying quietly in the water. Hiss! A dragon head? Beside the dragon head, there were various colored corals and some sea anemones, but no small fish or shrimp. Gudu! Han Fei swallowed. Did I just find the dragon head so easily? Han Fei felt that the demon purification pot on his wrist lit up. Recently, the demon purification pot had been quiet and rarely lit up. Only then did Han Fei find that the water here was full of spiritual energy. Han Fei took a deep breath and still felt cold. But because of the abundant spiritual energy, he felt refreshed and his eyes were clear. If he cultivated here, he would definitely make great progress. He ignored the fiery crystals on the rock wall above his head. There were so many of them that they couldn't be of good quality. He had no desire to collect them at all. Wang! Han Fei stared at the dragon head, and his face suddenly changed. There seemed to be some small stones inlaid at the bottom of the dragon head. Why did they look so familiar? Hiss! Spiritual stones. Shoot! Han Fei immediately got excited. He was wondering where the spiritual energy came from. Then he found spiritual stones. Whatever he lacked, he found them. Han Fei stepped out, but then he withdrew his foot. It was a bit strange that the dragon head was right here. By rights, there should be a lot of creatures here. But now, there was none. Was there none, or did he not see it? Han Fei took out his fishing rod and tried to pull the dragon head up. He felt that this place was a bit weird, so he'd better be careful. Phew! The fishing hook went straight to the dragon head in the water. Come up! Hiss! It's so heavy. Just when Han Fei was struggling to pull it up, a long and huge shadow suddenly flashed by in the water. Han Fei couldn't see what it was at all, but he could only guess that it was about 7 or 8 meters long. Before Han Fei could think more, the fishing line was suddenly broken. Under the inertia, Han Fei stepped back 5 or 6 steps. He hurriedly ran to the edge of the pool again. What was that? 17. Chapter 189. Han Fei shivered slightly. Sometimes, it was true that the enemy was not afraid of being strong, but people were afraid of being frightened. Wouldn't you be afraid of something that you could only see its shadow swimming past you in an instant? Han Fei glanced at his fishing rod. This was the first time the fishing line had snapped. Was the quality of the fishing rod too poor? No, although the black iron rod wasn't great, it was still a mortal-level high-quality fishing rod. How could it be broken so easily? Han Fei suspected that the creature in the water was either very powerful or had extremely sharp blades like the blade fish and the swordfish. Attach. Han Fei thought for a moment. The tail of the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was very strong. Even if the guy in the water was comparable to a dangling fisher, he couldn't just cut the 7-star chain. Puff puff puff, the chains entered the water and locked onto the dragon's head from 7 directions. At that moment, Han Fei felt cold all over. How could the cold air on the dragon head be so heavy? Hula, the figure in the water appeared again, and when it swept past the chains, it made a chila sound. Han Fei could even see sparks in the water. Fortunately, the 7-star chain was clearly able to withstand the attacks of the underwater monsters. This meant that the sea monster wasn't strong enough to make one's hair stand on end. Otherwise, even if the 9-tailed mantis shrimp was a legendary creature, it wouldn't be able to resist absolute strength. Get up here. Han Fei gathered his strength and pulled back fiercely. As the dragon head was moved, it seemed like it was going to break the corals in the water. But when the dragon head was pulled, the chain was frozen in an instant, and Han Fei's whole body was covered with a layer of frost. That wasn't the end of it. At this moment, the swift shadow appeared again. Han Fei only saw a bloody mouth. In the next moment, an electric current flowed up the ice and electrocuted Han Fei. The high-voltage electricity instantly shattered the ice and rushed into Han Fei's body. Even though Han Fei's body was strong, he couldn't bear it. He felt as if he had been struck by lightning. The electric current passed through his internal organs. Han Fei stiffened and fell straight to the surface of the water. At that moment, Han Fei finally saw the sea monster. Dragon eel. The demonic fish mixed with dragon blood lived on dragon bones all year round. They were highly cold resistant and had a tough body and powerful high-voltage electricity. Level 33 Strange 2064 points. Bone strengthening, beautifying and nourishing. Plop. Han Fei fell into the water, but before his body recovered from the paralysis, he felt a long tail lashing at him. Bang! The entire cave trembled. Han Fei was slapped dozens of meters away in the water. After spinning in the water for an unknown number of times, he finally stabilized himself. Pulling the chains violently, Han Fei finally caught the dragon eel in the electric shock. The moment Han Fei caught the dragon eel, his whole body trembled. He was so shocked by the electric shock that his soul almost flew out of his body. Suck. Me. Han Fei felt that he couldn't bear it any longer. If he didn't kill this dragon eel, he would be killed. Fortunately, the demon purification pot was shining at this moment as if it was breathing. The electric current on the dragon eel began to weaken, and its speed began to slow down. Although it was still crashing crazily with Han Fei, its strength was obviously much weaker. It can even resist the spiritual energy absorption of the demon purification pot. Han Fei clearly felt that the spiritual energy of this dragon eel had been greatly reduced, but its strength was reduced by about half. Hiss. Collect the demon. Bam! Han Fei was thrown against the rock wall by the tail. He failed to collect the demon for the first time. Han Fei stabbed hard with his double knives, but he couldn't cut in much. This dragon eel's body was too strong. Continue to suck. I'll suck you to death, you bastard. If you don't want to die, be a good boy and get into the gourd. Collect the demon. He and the beast were in a stalemate for more than 5 minutes. Finally, the dragon eel was sucked into the gourd when its spiritual energy was almost exhausted. The moment the dragon eel was sucked into the gourd, Han Fei lay on the bottom of the water. There were dozens of wounds all over his body, and his bones seemed to be broken. He felt that his body had been destroyed. After struggling for a long time, Han Fei finally found the entrance of the cave. He floated out, took a deep breath, and then sat cross-legged on the bottom of the water. No, I'm going to make a breakthrough. Otherwise, how can I continue to explore if I'm too seriously injured? Digging dozens of low-quality spiritual stones from the dragon head, Han Fei sat cross-legged, cast the divine healing technique on himself, and chose to make a breakthrough. At that moment, a large amount of spiritual energy surged. In half an hour, more than 30 low-quality spiritual stones were broken, but this was far from enough. Han Fei's injuries were getting better, and the spiritual energy in his body was surging. After a while, nearly 50 spiritual stones around him were broken again. Han Fei's injuries were healed, his internal organs were stabilized, and spiritual energy was surging in his meridians, which were a little hot. Kacha! In an instant, Han Fei's momentum soared, his strength increased significantly, and his realm soared. After all the spiritual stones in front of him were broken, Han Fei slowly stopped absorbing spiritual energy. He was a little shocked. He didn't know whether it was because he was too seriously injured or because he broke through 3 levels in a row, but this time he consumed a lot of spiritual energy. 1,000,000 points of spiritual energy supported him to advance from a junior peak-level Great Fishing Master to an intermediate Great Fishing Master. Han Fei was sure that others cultivated hard every day and guided spiritual energy into their bodies. After a long time, it might take 70,000 to 80,000 points of spiritual energy to make a breakthrough. But 3 small levels only required 300,000 to 400,000 points of spiritual energy, but now it had more than doubled. How could he continue to make breakthroughs in the future? He looked at the data. Owner a Han Fei level greater than 26, intermediate great fishing master, spiritual energy greater than 6,246, 2,499, spiritual heritage level 4, low quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish weapon purple bamboo rod major gongfa, water vein technique, volume 3 of void fishing, few. His upper limit of spiritual energy increased by 400 points. This meant that his comprehensive strength had improved a lot. What made Han Fei a little distressed was that he only had 6,246 points of spiritual energy left, which was not enough for a battle. For example, the battle with the dragon eel this time consumed more than 6,000 points of spiritual energy. He didn't know how many times his spiritual energy protective cover had been smashed. Han Fei immediately looked at the dragon head. I hope you don't let me down. Chapter 190. When Han Fei touched the skull of the blue sea wandering dragon with one hand, his hand began to freeze, and he quickly let go. Wow! A bone that could be used to make spiritual weapons was really extraordinary. Even if this thing was made into a weapon, could it be used by him? Han Fei forcibly took the dragon head into Forge the Universe. Suddenly, the crops in Forge the Universe were all frozen into dregs. The white fishing boat was covered with a layer of frost. Han Fei rubbed his head. The crops were planted in vain. However, such a big head was enough for him to refine 1,000 knives. It was not a loss at all, but a big profit. After taking away the dragon head, Han Fei crouched at the bottom of the water, rummaging through the coral mud, and finally found 12 low-quality spiritual stones. In this way, including the ones he had just absorbed, he had obtained nearly 60 to 70 low-grade spirit stones from the dragon head. No. Now my spiritual energy is running out. 12 are not enough. Rumble, Han Fei suddenly trembled. He hurriedly jumped out of the water, only to see a heat wave penetrating the hole that he hadn't entered in time. Han Fei was stunned. This passageway was not short. The flames had reached so deep. What had happened on the other side? Having no time to think, Han Fei immediately ran over. Needless to say, it must be Lu Renquang and the other 3 who made the noise. Because of the impact of the flames, the lamp slot in this tunnel was ignited. Han Fei sped up and ran wildly, but he encountered nothing. After running for nearly 2 kilometers, Han Fei saw light. When Han Fei jumped out of the hole, his vision suddenly became clear. This was a huge cave, more than 10 times larger than the previous small caves. In the cave, half of the flames were filled. Han Fei finally understood why it was called the Fire Cloud Cave. It turned out that this was the key to the problem. In the thick flames, there seemed to be something roaring. And Xia Shaochan was sticking to the rock wall at this moment, vomiting blood. Zhang Xuanyu knelt on one knee, holding a stick with one hand, while wiping the blood. Luo Xiaobai seemed to have met her nemesis. She was wrapping herself with vines, and at the same time, a dragon bone was inserted in front of her. As for Lu Renquang, he was struggling to resist the flames with 7 or 8 big shields in front of him. Swish! Han Fei immediately threw out the dragon bone that he had picked up before. As soon as the dragon bone appeared, the flames immediately retreated 30 meters. Lu Renquang looked back and was overjoyed. Han Fei, you're not dead. Zhang Xuanyu was overjoyed. Fei! Hurry up, there is a monster in the fire, a corpse. Xia Shaochan hurriedly said, be careful, it may be the bones of that dragon slayer. Han Fei was stunned. What's going on? The dragon slayer? That guy was so fierce that he killed the blue sea wandering dragon with one finger. How could he beat him? Luo Fei immediately sent a few pillars of spiritual energy into their bodies. Han Fei immediately came back to his senses and injected a few pillars of spiritual energy into their bodies. The few of them immediately heaved a sigh of relief, feeling slightly better. However, before Han Fei went up to help, he saw an emaciated corpse walking out of the flames and punching Zhang Xuanyu. Bam! With a loud explosion, the rod in Zhang Xuanyu's hand was directly bent, and his whole body was blasted away like a cannonball. Dragon, dragon, dragon of the Zhang to fly. The Fei of the Zhang of the dragon with dragon. The demon purification pot didn't show anything, as if it couldn't recognize human beings. Han Fei took a deep breath. He was an intermediate great fishing master, but he couldn't even fight a skeleton. Immediately, he took out the purple bamboo rod and smashed it with all his strength. Clang, kacha, the sound wave instantly filled the whole cave, and Han Fei was blown away by the punch. The purple bamboo rod in his hand was broken. And the skeleton was smashed dozens of meters away, rolling on the ground. Han Fei was shocked. What the hell is this? How can it be so strong? Xia Shaochan was anxious. Be careful. Although it has become a skeleton, it is definitely as strong as an advanced dangling fisher. Otherwise, how could we be beaten like this? Luo Xiaobai said, one dragon bone can protect one person at most. Find a way to lead this guy away from here. As long as we find more dragon bones, we can suppress it. Han Fei was helpless. Then why don't you keep fighting and I'll go find the dragon bones. Lu Renhuang and Luo Xiaobai threw the dragon bones in front of them to Han Fei and shouted, you fight. We'll go find the dragon bones. Han Fei. Xia Shaochan flashed away. Your body is the strongest. Who else can do it if not you? Huh? Have you made a breakthrough? Han Fei could tell by his weight whether he had made a breakthrough or not. At this moment, Han Fei was thinner than before. It was estimated that after he became a peak-level great fishing master, he would become thin again. But the others were not in the mood to pay attention to this now. Before the breakthrough, Han Fei's body was extremely strong. Now that he had made a breakthrough, he should be stronger. In fact, Han Fei's body did become stronger, but not as much as he imagined. After all, the indestructible body that had been tempered by lightning last time couldn't make a breakthrough easily. The enhancement this time was just a natural enhancement from a junior great fishing master to an intermediate great fishing master. Zhang Xuanyu shouted, Fei Fei, in ancient times, there were hidden fishers who went into the sea to slay dragons. Now you are a dragon slayer with 2 dragon bones. You are the most legendary figure in the 4th Academy this year. Come on. The door is behind this guy. Han Fei. Han Fei looked at the 2 dragon bones in front of him and his face turned green. These people had no sense of loyalty. They slipped away as soon as he arrived. Thanks to the battle with the dragon eel just now, he had made a breakthrough. Otherwise, how could he defeat this skeleton in front of him? Han Fei reluctantly picked up the dragon bones, exerted strength under his feet, and rushed into the flames in an instant. Wherever he passed, the flames retreated. This was the power of the blue sea wandering dragon bones. Roar, the skeleton of the strong master had subconsciously avoided the dragon bones. But Han Fei's close combat immediately enraged him. For a time, flames gathered and surged towards Han Fei. At that moment, Han Fei felt that he was almost roasted by the rolling heat waves. On the other side, Xia Shaochan and the other 3 quickly slipped into the cave behind the skeleton of the strong master. Han Fei shouted, hurry up and get some dragon bones back. I can't do it alone. Xia Shaochan's voice echoed in the cave. Hold on for half an hour. Han Fei wanted to vomit blood. Half an hour? Fight with this thing for half an hour? However, after a while, when there was no more sound in the cave, Han Fei immediately took out his dragon head. As soon as the dragon head came out, the flames in the whole cave suddenly shrank. The skeleton also froze and seemed to be a little scared. Attach. Han Fei took out the chains and tried to swing the dragon head with all his strength. However, this thing was a bit heavy, and the dragon head would freeze as soon as it was pulled, so it was too slow to hit anyone. Fuck, the dragon head is here. Come on, hit me. Han Fei stopped pulling the dragon head and waved the two dragon bones like two big clubs. Clang, 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 the skeleton seemed to be completely suppressed and completely lost the power to break the purple bamboo rod with a punch just now. Han Fei also took the opportunity to knock it dozens of times. Oh no, the skeleton of this strong master is too hard. I can't break it. Han Fei stood next to the dragon head and didn't move. He was almost turned into an ice sculpture. Fortunately, the skeleton didn't attack him. The two sides were in a stalemate. Han Fei scratched his head. He couldn't hit the dragon head, and neither could the dragon bones. Should he run first? Han Fei dragged the dragon head to the entrance of the cave. The skeleton avoided to the other side. Then, Han Fei stood in front of the cave. After half an hour, there was no movement in the cave at all. Han Fei shouted, "Are you back?" Huh? No response. He immediately withdrew the dragon head. At the moment the dragon head disappeared, the skeleton seemed to be revived. With a roar, it rushed at Han Fei. Han Fei ran and said, "Brother Bone, don't chase me. I'm not your wife. Why are you chasing me?" The strong skeleton ran into the cave with Han Fei, one in front and one behind, sprinting crazily. After a while, Han Fei rushed into another cave. As soon as he stepped in, he saw the remains of the Buddha's tentacles and the footprints of several people on the ground. It seemed that Lu Renquang and the other three had broken through here. Han Fei continued to run, and the flames came again. One cave, two caves. Han Fei was speechless and shouted back, "Brother Bone, you are good at digging holes, right? Do you have to dig so many holes?" When Han Fei ran into the fourth tunnel, Xia Shaochan and the others came up to him. Suddenly, they stopped and stared at each other. Xia Shaochan asked, "Why are you here?" Luo Xiaobai looked behind Han Fei. "Turn around and run." Chapter 191. Zhang Xuanyu ran back and shouted, "Fei Fei, didn't I tell you to hold on?" Han Fei said angrily, "Hold on. Do you think I can beat him?" Han Fei was struggling to hold the double dragon bones and couldn't swing the dragon head. What could he do? "I'm having a headache too. Maybe I can try the water-stirring seal later." In the small hole, Luo Xiaobai shouted, "Spread out. Han Fei, give me a dragon bone." Han Fei threw the dragon bone to Luo Xiaobai, and it was caught by a vine. Seeing that the others all had dragon bones, he was relieved. Brother Bone is afraid of the cold. Don't use other weapons. Just hit him with the dragon bone. Before long, the skeletons had arrived. As soon as he came in, he was slightly stunned, as if he felt the coldness of this place. Han Fei shouted, "Go! Hammer him! Scar of War Shadows!" With that said, Han Fei took the lead and smashed the dragon bone at them with all his might. Bam! The corpse turned around and punched Han Fei, forcing him to take 5 steps back. The others slightly changed their expressions. Were the 5 dragon bones not enough? Han Fei was still beaten back by a punch. Luo Xiaobai roared and wrapped the dragon bone in vines, knocking at the corpse. Luo Xiaobai shouted, "Let's go together. This corpse can only fight instinctively. Let's go together and see if we can suppress it." Xia Shaochan nodded. "Although it's not in line with the role of a hunter, I agree." Zhang Xuanyu shouted to embolden himself, "My stick is bent. Let's go." Lu Renquang shivered. "Kill him." The 5 of them waved the blue sea wandering dragon bones and charged forward together. When the 5 dragon bones were gathered, the suppression force appeared. The ice-cold dragon bones finally extinguished the flames on the expert's corpse, revealing his body. Everyone saw that there was a crimson stone at the heart of the corpse. Zhang Xuanyu shouted, "Hit the stone out. This must be the source of his power." Supreme stab. Using the dragon bone as a dagger, Xia Shaochan sped up and stabbed the back of the corpse, making it stagger. But the stone was still firmly stuck inside. Bind! The fire went out, and Luo Xiaobai's vines finally came in handy. At this moment, it was madly wrapping around the skeleton. Lu Renquang took out a black glove from the armor box. He put on his glove and grabbed the stone. Howl! Lu Renquang suddenly retracted his hand, and the black glove on his hand had been burned with a big hole, and his whole hand was covered with blisters. Lu Renquang shivered and almost cried. "You can't touch it." Luckily, I reacted quickly, or else my hand would have been crippled. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. Then what should we do? It's not like we can separate. Once we're separated, the flames on his body will come out, and it'll take a lot of effort. Xia Shaochan kicked the bones that were tied up by vines and said, "If only we could make a box out of these dragon bones." Everyone immediately looked at Xia Shaochan. Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Good idea, but we don't have any refiners here." Seeing this, Han Fei couldn't help but say leisurely, "Actually, I know a little bit about refining." Everyone. Han Fei smiled awkwardly. "Don't stare at me. However, I also need a fire. Remember the fire at the door when we just came in? I may need to go there." Xia Shaochan looked at him weirdly. "Han Fei, what else are you hiding? Just tell me." "I really don't. I used to think that buying weapons was too expensive. So I taught myself a little bit." Everyone chuckled. "You want to learn refining by yourself? Do you mean that none of us are geniuses, but you are?" Luo Xiaobai shouted, "Hurry up. We'll hold on for half an hour." Lu Renquang's eyes flickered. "Han Fei, I broke a lot of weapons this time." Han Fei ran away with a bone. Before he ran, he saw the flames on the surface of this skeleton again. They couldn't hold on for too long. Han Fei ran through a tunnel and looked back. Who would really go to the furnace? He immediately stretched out his hand, and the calabash appeared, and the dragon bones were directly sucked in. The demon purification pot's refining speed was not slow. However, Han Fei expected that a box would consume a lot of spiritual energy. But as soon as the thought flashed through his mind, 20,000 points of spiritual energy were gone, and 2 low-quality spiritual stones were broken. Wow! So expensive. Han Fei shivered. It costs 20,000 points of spiritual energy to refine a box. It was the first time in his life that he refined a spiritual weapon, and he refined a box. Then how long would it take to refine all the knives of the million knife art? Wouldn't it cost hundreds of millions of points of spiritual energy? Damn it, a small piece of the dragon bone was used, and the remaining dragon bone was spat out. Han Fei waited for half an hour before he slowly walked into the tunnel. When Han Fei came in again, he found that Lu Renquang and the others were jumping and knocking the skeleton with the dragon bones. Luo Xiaobai was overjoyed to see Han Fei. "Did you succeed?" "Pooh!" Han Fei immediately pretended to vomit blood and said palely, "I was almost killed. This dragon bone box used up all the spiritual energy in my body, and it even cost me a spiritual fruit." As he spoke, Han Fei threw the dragon bone box over. No one doubted him. Although they didn't know the level of the blue sea wandering dragon bone, they had a guess. It wouldn't be easy for Han Fei to refine it. Luo Xiaobai immediately shouted, "Give me the rest of the dragon bones too." Han Fei threw the dragon bones out, and Lu Renquang grabbed the dragon bones and extinguished the flames on the skeleton again. Luo Xiaobai took the opportunity to stick the box in the skeleton's chest. Finally, the red stone was sealed. Without the stone, the skeleton no longer moved and directly shattered into pieces. Everyone looked at each other in shock. Zhang Xuanyu was shocked. It died so easily. Xia Shaochan said, "It's dead." Lu Renhuang hurriedly threw the box to Han Fei. "Throw it into the sea-swallowing seashell." "I don't want to hold this thing." Han Fei touched the box and it disappeared. Then he stared at Lu Renhuang and asked, "Where were you just now?" Lu Renhuang said innocently, "How would I know? I was wondering where you were. You were fighting and then you disappeared. I searched for you for a long time but couldn't find you. Then, I accidentally walked into a cave and found a mutant hermit crab. I almost ran into it and killed myself." Luo Xiaobai said solemnly, "We only chased after you when we found that you were not moving. However, we only found Lu Renhuang." "Where did you go?" Han Fei snorted. "I met a mutant human-faced crab. I was in an illusion the whole time. After I killed it, I found that you were all gone." Zhang Xuanyu chuckled. "That's good. This is a great opportunity. The blue sea wandering dragon bone is not ordinary. Fei Fei, when the time comes, forge a few decent spirit artifacts for us." "Pooh," Han Fei kicked Zhang Xuanyu. "Damn it. A box almost cost me my life. You want me to build a spiritual weapon for you?" Zhang Xuanyu quickly dodged. "I'm just kidding." Xia Shaochan stared at the dragon bone in her hand for a long time and said slowly, "It seems that the tailbone is still missing." "Tailbone?" Everyone looked at Xia Shaochan. Xia Shaochan rolled her eyes and said, "Nonsense, a dragon. Doesn't it have a tail? What we are holding now are all sections of the torso, so there must be a tailbone, right?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Yes, not only the tailbone, but also the dragon head." Everyone trembled. Zhang Xuanyu quickly waved his hand. "Forget it, forget it. Forget about the dragon head. A dragon bone can create a mutant creature comparable to a dangling fisher. What kind of monster can the dragon head be?" Lu Renhuang nodded. "I agree. I can still look for the tailbone, but I won't look for the dragon head. It's scary." Han Fei frowned. He couldn't say that the dragon head had been put away, could he? He quickly changed the topic. "Where did you find the skeleton of this strong master?" Xia Shaochan snorted. "It ran out by itself. I don't know which hole it came out from. Anyway, this fire cloud cave is full of holes. However, this strong master is dead, so we should be able to continue exploring." Han Fei quickly said, "Let's take a rest first. Let me tell you, a dragon's tail is not much worse than a dragon's head. As the saying goes, a dragon breathes dragon breath from its mouth and its tail is extremely powerful. Let's be careful." Xia Shaochan scoffed. "I haven't seen a dragon yet, so I don't know what a dragon head looks like." Han Fei thought for a moment. The head he got had no horns and was quite ugly. He wondered if this blue sea wandering dragon was a real dragon. After a moment, Zhang Xuanyu said excitedly, "Can we go now?" Han Fei said expectantly, "Yes." Chapter 192. According to their route, they were only short of the dragon's tail. After all, the dragon's head had already been taken by them. This time, the tunnel was very long, and unexpectedly, there were no special creatures sneaking up on them. Luo Xiaobai frowned. "Don't you feel strange?" Xia Shaochan nodded. "Yes, the spiritual energy has become denser." Lu Renhuang shivered. "It's a bit cold." Han Fei was also thinking about this question along the way. He was wondering, why are there so many holes? Why is the fire cloud cave so deep? Suddenly, Han Fei was stunned. Why is the dragon's head in front? What's the purpose? Is it possible that the expert wants to turn the dragon into a dragon after it dies? Hiss. Dragon vein. Han Fei was shocked and hurriedly said, Dragon vein. Judging from the arrangement of these dragon bones, we should be walking on a dragon vein. Everyone was curious. What is a dragon vein? Han Fei scoffed. Stupid. After a dragon dies, it uses the terrain to create a dragon-shaped earth vein. The land of a dragon vein is suitable for raising corpses. Damn, let's go forward, hurry up. Han Fei seemed to think of something and suddenly sprinted forward. Although the others didn't understand, they quickly followed him. After running for only a few kilometers, a huge cave appeared, larger than all the previous caves. However, at this moment, everyone suddenly stopped at the entrance of the cave, not even daring to breathe loudly. Xia Shaochan poked Han Fei and asked telepathically, why is there a person sitting there? Han Fei swallowed and replied, if my guess is correct, this is the real dragon slayer. The one just now was not him at all. Hiss, all of them subconsciously took half a step back. Are you kidding us? The guy just now was already so awesome, but he was still not the dragon slayer. However, everyone agreed without thinking about it. Because in the center of this cave, there seemed to be a living person sitting there in a Shiulian posture. This person's face was pale, and his skin and flesh were all there. There was no telling whether he was dead or alive. More importantly, this person's face was facing the entrance of their cave. Gudu. Lu Renquang said to the others telepathically, let's run. This is a being who can kill a dragon with one finger. We can't even withstand one finger of his. Everyone wanted to retreat, but Han Fei didn't. The dragon's tail was placed 2 meters in front of the expert. Around the expert, there was a 5-meter wide ring-shaped pit. The pit was filled with nothing but spirit spring water. Han Fei's heart was pounding. The spiritual spring was more attractive to him than the dragon tail. Now that his spiritual energy was almost depleted, when would he become an advanced great fishing master? If he relied on himself, when would he be able to master the set of million knife art? But how much spirit spring was there in front of him? It was more than 10 million points. If he could get it, he would definitely be rich. Luo Xiaobai said telepathically, look, there's a door on the other side. Zhang Xuanyu asked, is it the exit? Xia Shaochan nodded. It's possible that they've already reached the end. Logically speaking, there should be a way out. Otherwise, we would have to run to the furnace. Lu Renquang asked, what if the door is not an exit? Everyone was silent for a moment. What if the door wasn't the exit? Wouldn't he be cutting off his escape route? However, just as they were hesitating, a loud sound came from behind them. The cave was shaking, and rocks fell down. Not good, the back has collapsed. The 5 people's faces turned green. Why did the cave have to shake at this moment? When the cave shook, the expert sitting cross-legged in the center of the cave suddenly opened his eyes. Han Fei screamed, let's go. That door has become the last way out. Lu Renquang howled, I told you not to look for it. Look, we're all going to be beaten to death this time. Luo Xiaobai said, let's go over before this expert recovers. The distance of hundreds of meters was covered in the blink of an eye. In the next moment, everyone rushed out. Lu Renquang and Han Fei carried the door. Sure enough, just like the previous door, they just needed to lift it up. Xia Shaochan and Luo Xiaobai quickly passed through the gap of the lifted door. Zhang Xuanyu followed closely. Lu Renquang's face turned red. Use your strength. I can't get through. Han Fei said, I told you to lose weight, but you didn't listen. Now you know the pain when you're running for your life, don't you? Armor and shield. Lu Renquang used his armor box in an instant. Several big shields were about to be propped up under the gap of the door, but in the next second, Han Fei and Lu Renquang were both stunned. They felt a chill on their backs, and they didn't know when a person was standing behind them. Han Fei shouted, fuck, Zhang Xuanyu shouted from the other end, come here, Rumble, the stone door collapsed in an instant, hitting the ground with a muffled sound. At the same time, mystic stones fell from all directions. Not only this door, but another door was also blocked. At the same time, a fat body was kicked out from inside. The force was so fierce that Lu Rinquang rolled 7 or 8 times on the ground. Lu Rinquang's face changed drastically, and he ran to the door, shouting, "Violent war body." At this moment, not only Lu Rinquang, but the others also turned pale and tried to lift the stone door with all their might. Unfortunately, they could only pull up a space of 3 inches before they couldn't move any further. Lu Rinquang's eyes were bloodshot and he roared anxiously, Han Fei, you ironhead fish, have you ever been hit in the head by an ironhead fish? Han Fei, say something. Fei, say something. Don't leave us behind. Bam! An enormous force hit the door, and Lu Rinquang and the others were flung several meters away. Luo Xiaobai's face was pale. Not good, we're pressed by something. Lu Rinquang's voice was shivering. He roared with tears on his face, lift it. Lift it. Lift it. Han Fei's face changed greatly. He held the dragon bone and stuck it to the wall behind him. Half a meter in front of him, the man looked at him with a blank expression. Gudu. Brother, let's talk nicely. We're all civilized people. Fighting is too rude. The man didn't respond but simply stared at the dragon bone in Han Fei's hand. Han Fei quickly extended the dragon bone. Senior, do you want it? I'll give it to you. Pa. Han Fei didn't even see how the man attacked, but the dragon bone in his hand was thrown away and hit the wall. Hiss. Oh my god. Senior, let's be reasonable and not fight. Han Fei's back was covered in cold sweat. He was holding the water-stirring seal in his hand, wondering if he should seal this bastard. But if the water-stirring seal couldn't hurt this guy, wouldn't he be doomed? Han Fei slightly moved aside. It was definitely not a pleasant thing to stand face to face with a dragon slayer. More importantly, Han Fei saw that the dragon slayer's face seemed to be aging. Is he turning into a corpse? Han Fei was lost for words. The treasure hunt turned into a graveyard. He wondered if this guy was dead or not. If he was alive, how many years had he lived? The dragon had turned into bones, but he didn't change at all. Bim, Kacha. Han Fei was slapped away and slapped directly into the spiritual spring. Han Fei was stunned by the slap. His ribs were broken, and his chest was badly mutilated. Han Fei was shocked by the man's strength. No, he's not too strong. Has this guy not fully recovered yet? Yes, the murals showed that this man was heavily wounded and dying. If he was dying, his strength must have been greatly reduced. Thinking of this, Han Fei thought of something. Could it be that the spiritual spring provided the source of his strength? I'll suck it all up. With a thought from Han Fei, more than half of the water in the pool was gone, and Forge the Universe was filled. The space of 60 square meters was filled with spiritual spring. Han Fei was shocked. How much spiritual spring was there? Master Calabash, suck it up. Forge the Universe, expand. Little black, little white. 9 tails. Come out and eat. The man looked at Han Fei gloomily and walked over step by step. Han Fei stretched out his hand, and the demon purification pot appeared in his palm. The dragon head takes up too much space. I'll throw it to make knives. Then a huge dragon head blocked in front of Han Fei. The moment the dragon head appeared, the man stopped. His face seemed to be full of anger. Immediately, the dragon head was sucked into the calabash. Han Fei shouted to the man, "Illusion, what you see is an illusion. That's not a dragon head, but a snake head." Chapter 193. At this moment, Han Fei saw that the man's skin was rapidly darkening, and spots even appeared on his face. His body was aging faster. Han Fei's eyes lit up. He guessed right. The rich spiritual energy here prevented the man's body from decaying. In fact, he was already dead. This was just a fake corpse. Huh. The moment the dragon head disappeared, the man took action. He punched with one hand. Han Fei's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly rushed to the other side, roaring. Attach. Fuse. Fury. Spiritual energy protective cover. Water-stirring seal technique. In an instant, Han Fei's strength skyrocketed. He was originally an intermediate great fishing master, but now he was as strong as a peak-level great fishing master. At the same time, the water-stirring seal appeared in the air. The huge phantom smashed at the man's fist. Rumble, the mountain shook violently and rubble fell. Outside the door, Lu Rinquang was waiting anxiously. A terrible battle seemed to have broken out inside. Luo Xiaobai said calmly, Zhang Xuanyu, Xiaochan, go out and find teacher. Xia Xiaochan frowned. How long will it take? Han Fei can't hold on for that long. Luo Xiaobai added, since there is a fight inside, it means that Han Fei has other trump cards. Go, this is the only way to save him now. Without saying a word, Zhang Xuanyu rushed to the entrance of the cave with his rod. This road was extremely damp. There must be a way out. Inside the door. Han Fei was hit flying and his spiritual energy protective cover was instantly smashed. At the same time, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was injured and its attached state was cancelled. The state of fusion also collapsed instantly, and Little Black and Little White were slapped back to the sea of spirit rings. Han Fei also coughed up a mouthful of blood heavily. After this punch, the man seemed to have aged dozens of years at once. He was aging rapidly. Han Fei cast the divine healing technique on himself as if it were free, and at the same time, his body made a strange arc and pounced on the spiritual spring. He muttered, Go, 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 bam. Han Fei was punched in the back and immediately vomited a mouthful of blood. He felt that his body was almost blown up. Forge the universe. The next moment, Han Fei disappeared from this huge cave. Forge the universe had been filled with the spiritual spring. Han Fei vomited several mouthfuls of blood as soon as he came in. There was a fist mark from his back to his front. He didn't know how many bones were broken. Motherfucker, why can't I come in instantly? Han Fei was rather annoyed. Forge the universe was a good place, but it was only a matter of seconds to put inanimate objects in. However, if a living person entered, including himself, there would be a trace of resistance. This resistance made it impossible for Han Fei to come in immediately. He needed some time. He was sure that if the guy outside knew this, he would never give him the slightest chance to enter Forge the Universe. At this moment, Forge the Universe was expanding at a slow speed. From the beginning until now, it hadn't even expanded half a meter. Han Fei quickly cast the divine healing technique on himself. After more than an hour, his injuries were finally healed. At this moment, Forge the Universe continued to expand by about 6 meters, and the water level of the spiritual spring had dropped. After a while, the spirit spring had been decreasing. The dozen daggers that appeared in front of Han Fei consumed nearly 500,000 points of spiritual energy. However, to Han Fei's great joy, they were all spiritual weapons. How much would it cost if it was sold in the Linglong Tower? Han Fei grabbed a random one and the data appeared. Blue Sea Wandering Dragon daggers forged from the bones of the Blue Sea Wandering Dragon, the blade contained extreme coldness. Once pierced by this blade, it could instantly freeze the enemy's blood vessels and meridians. Lower grade spiritual weapon note, due to the limited forging materials, it can be cast into a lower quality spiritual weapon at most. Han Fei took a deep breath. It seemed to be very strong. What did soul possession mean? Han Fei didn't understand. He had never touched spiritual weapons before, and this was the first time he had refined one. If it weren't for this massive amount of spiritual spring, he wouldn't have the capital to refine spiritual weapons. There was still a lot of spiritual spring in Forge the Universe. This time, Han Fei didn't hold back. Since I can't beat the guy outside, I'll suck up all your spiritual spring so that you can't replenish it. Let's see how arrogant you are. Coincidentally, his level 4, low-quality spiritual heritage didn't seem to reach the average progress of Lu Renkuang and the others. Even Zhang Xuanyu had a level 6 spiritual heritage, and he was just a level 4, low-quality one. He really had to continue to improve. Upgrade. Suddenly, Han Fei's body seemed to become a bottomless pit, and a large amount of spiritual spring poured into it. When his level 3 spiritual heritage broke through to level 4, Han Fei didn't consume any spiritual energy, but was smashed by lightning. Now he took the initiative to break through, and the spiritual energy consumed was far more than the original 200,000 points. At this moment, each minor level required 500,000 points of spiritual energy. After a long time, when Han Fei consumed 1,000,000 points of spiritual energy and upgraded his spiritual heritage to level 4, high quality, the upgrade sign disappeared. After reading the data, Han Fei grinned with joy. His spiritual heritage was probably affected and couldn't be upgraded anymore. But his spiritual energy reserve increased. When Han Fei opened his eyes, there were already more than 40 blue sea wandering dragon daggers floating in front of him. What shocked him was that the spiritual spring that had filled Forge the Universe was only 1 meter deep at this moment. Of course, this was also related to the expansion of Forge the Universe. At this moment, Forge the Universe had expanded to a radius of 100 meters, and it was still expanding. Han Fei said, "Stop expanding." Han Fei was a bit annoyed. He thought that the spiritual spring that filled Forge the Universe could last for a long time. But how long had it been? Did it even have 6 hours? Han Fei calculated in his heart. It cost him 1,000,000 points of spiritual energy to upgrade his spiritual heritage, nearly 2,000,000 points of spiritual weapons, and nearly 400,000 points of spiritual energy in Forge the Universe, plus the spiritual energy stored in his body and absorbed by the demon purification pot. Han Fei gasped. 4 or 5 million points of spiritual energy were gone just like that. Han Fei was speechless. Everything stopped. He didn't need to continue to consume the spiritual spring. He had to find a chance to go out and store the rest of the spiritual spring. However, God knew if the guy outside had become a mummy by now. To be on the safe side, Han Fei began to activate the million knife art. He thought that it would take him at least a year or even 2 years to get enough resources to build a knife array, but he didn't expect the accident to come so soon. Of course, before he activated the knife array, he had to let the spiritual weapon recognize him as its master first. The water-stirring seal was not a spiritual weapon, so it still needed to be recognized by blood. As a spiritual weapon, it was inevitable. Han Fei grabbed a knife and rubbed it in his palm. Although there was a slight obstruction, his skin was still easily cut. This made Han Fei immediately think of something. Before, he had never fought with people who used spiritual weapons, so he didn't know how powerful spiritual weapons were. But now he knew. No matter how strong his body was, he still couldn't resist it. Similar to the water-stirring seal, after a spiritual weapon recognized its master, it could be stored in the body at any time. But Han Fei didn't know where it was stored. Anyway, his body was strong and he didn't feel the slightest discomfort. After a while, Han Fei collected all the 50 blue sea wandering dragon daggers into his body. Han Fei tried it. When the 50 daggers flew out at the same time, they all fell to the ground with a clatter. Only 5 or 6 of them could still fly. Han Fei frowned. What's the meaning of this? Is this kind of gongfa so difficult to practice? 2 hours later. Han Fei could control 10 daggers at the same time. He stopped practicing. he seemed to have encountered a bottleneck. It seemed to consume a bit of mental power, that was, spiritual power, and he couldn't be distracted. It's time to go out. Inside the cave, the young man who had no enemies had now become middle-aged. The spiritual spring was extracted, making his body shrink. Swish! Han Fei appeared and stood where he had just disappeared. And 3 meters away from him, the man didn't move. Damn, Han Fei immediately flew to the spiritual spring. Come back. The remaining less than half of the spring disappeared in the blink of an eye. Huh! The man behind him chased up and punched again, shaking the cave. Han Fei chuckled. He quickly rushed to the dragon bone that was stuck in the wall and pulled it out. At the same time, 10 blue sea wandering dragon daggers appeared beside him. Swish, 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 the daggers broke through the air, and the power of spiritual weapons suddenly appeared. Although they were knocked away by the man's fists, the daggers directly froze his arms. Of course, the ice seemed to be nothing to him, and he shattered it with a wave of his hand. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers flew all over the sky, chasing after the man and slashing crazily. Unfortunately, even spiritual weapons couldn't break this man's defense. Han Fei shouted as he ran, "Bro! Stop fighting. You've lost your IQ. Brother! Let's each take a step back, okay? Let me go out and you can continue to sit here." Chapter 194. If this man could speak, he would have been infuriated by Han Fei. Did you take away all my spiritual spring? What the hell am I supposed to do? Han Fei was not familiar with the million knife art. From time to time, some knives would fall to the ground, but this didn't affect him. The chill of the knives did affect the man, giving Han Fei some time to find a way out. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp was released. Han Fei shouted, "9-tailed mantis shrimp, dig a hole for me. Dig out those mystic stones." The 9-tailed mantis shrimp dug a hole and Han Fei ran fast. Even with the blue sea wandering dragon daggers blocking the man, the latter was still very fast and almost hit Han Fei several times. About half an hour later, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp had just crushed a mystic stone. With a loud bang, the door was blasted away from the outside. By the way, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp was also blasted away, dumbfounded. Han Fei took back the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and looked at the door while running. "Han Fei, I knew you wouldn't die. Come here." Lu Rinquang raised his hands and greeted him, his eyes swollen. Xia Shaochan also jumped and waved her hand. "Han Fei, get out of the way." With a thought, Han Fei stepped on the rock wall and dodged the man's attack by a hair's breadth. At the same time, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers flowed into Han Fei's hand like water and then merged into his body. At the door, Wen Renyu, Zhang Xuanyu, and Luo Xiaobai all breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Wen Renyu shouted, "Han Fei, get out of the way." Sword slash. As Wen Renyu shouted, countless grass-green leaves appeared out of thin air in all directions. But it was these leaves that cut the void, leaving countless white marks in the air. Clang, 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 in the blink of an eye, the man was slashed more than 100 times. Huh! The man waved his fist fiercely, and a ripple could be seen breaking through the air. Wen Renyu sneered, "Dead is dead. Who do you think you are trying to defy the heavens and change your fate?" Wen Renyu walked forward gracefully. Behind her and under her feet, thousands of leaves turned into swords and slashed the ripple directly. Not only that, in the blink of an eye, it was as if thousands of swords had stabbed into the man's body, causing him to retreat step by step. His skin was cut open all over his body, but not a single drop of blood flowed out. Roar! Noisy! Sunset sword slash! Wen Renyu stomped her foot, and a field of red sword grass appeared in front of her. As soon as the leaf appeared, the mountain trembled and the surrounding spiritual energy was sucked dry. Shio! Rumble! Under Han Fei's shocked gaze, the man's chest was torn open, and all his internal organs were cut into pieces. Han Fei subconsciously scratched his head. Isn't this too fierce? The man was beaten to the point where he couldn't even fight back. In the blink of an eye, he was covered with cuts and bruises. Is this the strength of our school's teachers? Wasn't this a little too much? Sword grass like on. At this moment, a lot of sword grass grew out of the man's body. As Wenren Yu clenched her fist, the man's body exploded with a bang, and a large hole appeared in his chest. The huge impact forced them to take 5 or 6 steps back. Seeing that the man was killed by Wenren Yu, Zhang Xuanyu and the others hurried forward. Fei Fei, not bad. How did you survive? His eyes bloodshot, Lu Renkuang roared at Han Fei. Han Fei, do you really think you're invincible? How dare you kick me out? Xia Shaochan looked at Han Fei weirdly. How did you survive? Luo Xiaobai said, huh? The spiritual spring is gone. Han Fei said, it's a long story. I'll explain it to you later. I think this place is about to collapse. Wenren Yu suddenly said, he's not dead yet. The Renda crowd was shocked. They looked at the pile of rocks and saw that there was indeed a hand struggling in there. Han Fei asked in shock, what is this thing exactly? It's still not dead. Wenren Yu said, he refined himself into an undead creature, but he didn't succeed. You go first. I'll catch up later. Luo Xiaobai pulled Han Fei and walked out. This expedition was too risky. They thought that the treasures in the level 2 fishery wouldn't be too scary, but what they encountered almost killed them. A moment later, on the fishing boat on the surface of the sea, Wenren Yu stood on the bow of the boat with an awful face. You're just a bunch of baiqi. You knew that there were dragon bones there, but you still dared to come to the end. A treasure trove of such a level is beyond your ability, do you know that? Fortunately, this fire cloud cave is built in the level 2 fishery. If it were in the level 3 fishery, any mutant creature in it would have been enough to make you suffer. The more dangerous ones might have killed you. Luo Xiaobai said in embarrassment, Master, we were wrong. Han Fei asked, Master, why are you here? Wenren Yu scoffed. Humph. To protect you, of course. I thought that you were just out to catch exotic creatures, but you didn't come back after hours. I went to look for you, but you were nowhere to be found. If Shaochan hadn't broken through the earth veins with the giant arowana, I wouldn't have been able to find you. You would have been dead for sure. Han Fei smiled awkwardly. Master, how strong was that man? I wouldn't have survived until now if he didn't only have his instinctive consciousness. Wenren Yu said indifferently, what kind of strength can an undying being that's neither dead nor alive have? But his physical strength is still at the level of a beginner hidden fisher. Then Wenren Yu looked at Han Fei as if she wanted to see a flower in his eyes. How did Han Fei survive? The others also looked at Han Fei. Not to mention the physical strength of a hidden fisher, they couldn't even resist a hanging fisher. Han Fei's body was strong enough to resist a dangling fisher, but a hidden fisher, Han Fei said, don't think too much. In fact, for a while, he blasted the channel out again. Wenren Yu looked at Han Fei. Did you find the dragon head? Han Fei wanted to deny it, but on second thought, he seemed to have been seen through, so he could only nod. I was lucky. I found the dragon head and encountered a mutant dragon eel. Wenren Yu nodded. Okay, everyone has their own opportunities. Don't talk about it if you don't want to. However, next time you encounter an unknown treasure trove, don't take the risk of entering it. At least tell me. Han Fei nodded. Of course. Although the dragon head was exposed, Wenren Yu didn't ask again, and he was relieved. This matter couldn't stand the investigation. Besides, the dragon head was not complete now. 50 blue sea wandering dragon daggers had been refined. If refining was involved, it would be even more troublesome. After this adventure, Han Fei's pride was gone. A great fishing master was too weak. Even if he used all his trump cards, he was still no match for a punch. This was just the physical strength of a hidden fisher, not to mention Wenren Yu, who appeared later. With a flip of her hand, a hidden fisher was blown up. Such a powerful teacher had actually appeared in an academy in the town. Han Fei took a deep breath. The fourth academy might be stronger than he thought. Wenren Yu changed the topic and then asked, "I already know how your research on spiritual beasts is going. But I asked you to study the true meaning of fishing. How is your research going?" Lu Renquang muttered, "Teacher, I really don't understand the true meaning." Zhang Xuanyu said bitterly, "Teacher, I think treasure hunting is the true meaning." Smack! Wenren Yu knocked Zhang Xuanyu's head with a fishing rod. "Is there such a treasure today?" Han Fei actually wanted to say the same thing, but seeing that Zhang Xuanyu was beaten up, he just shut up. Xia Xiaochan blinked. "Teacher, why don't you demonstrate it? It's a bit difficult for us to comprehend it ourselves." Han Fei nodded. "I agree." Luo Xiaobai didn't say anything, but she also looked at Wenren Yu expectantly. Wenren Yu heaved a long sigh and shook her head. There are countless caves and secret realms like this in the infinite ocean. You think you got great benefits, but in fact, you didn't. You risked your life just to get some ordinary things. Do you really think the blue sea wandering dragon bone is so good? Let me tell you, this is not a dragon, but a python. It's far from being a flood dragon. And fishing is the eternal theme of the infinite ocean. Do you think fishing is not worth learning? With that, Wenren Yu drew her fishing rod and threw the hook far away in an instant. The spiritual energy in Wenren Yu's hands coiled around the fishing rod as if she were throwing the hook to the sky. Wenren Yu said lightly, "I didn't throw the hook far, hundreds of kilometers away, less than 1,000 kilometers." Wow, all of them were stunned. What did she mean? Less than 1,000 kilometers? You said it wasn't far. Then what's 100 meters when we fish? Are we just playing house? Wenren Yu shouted in a low voice, "The hook swam in all directions with force, and you can travel 100 kilometers in the blink of an eye. You need to find what you want in this moment and then retract the rod." Hum. 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 The fishing line shone and began to constrict crazily, as if something had been caught. Han Fei was lost for words. What a show! You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.